Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Apologize for the late start. I'd like to call the Airdrie City Council meeting to order for September 6, 2016. And the first thing I'd like to do is welcome everybody. Hope you had a good summer, getting ready for the fall, and remind everyone if there is an emergency, we'll gather at the exits here where you came in, and there's also exits down to my left. And if you need to use the washrooms, so just over to my left. Item 4.1 are minutes. Councillor Hunter, please.
Everybody had a chance to review the minutes of July 4th and make a motion to adopt.
Excellent. All those in favor? It is unanimous. 4.2, Councillor Bellick, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd like to acknowledge the minutes of the Environmental Advisory Board for February 3rd, 2016.
Thank you. All those in favor? It's unanimous. And we're moving on to item number 5, consent agenda. We have the budget, so those of you who weren't here earlier, we went through this in great detail. I don't believe there'll be any questions for us. 5.1, how about 5.2? Any interest there? Okay, and I have a note here that 11.2 should have been on the consent agenda. So if I could, I'll get a motion to move that 11.2 to the consent agenda first. Thank you, Councillor Bellick. All those in favor? It's unanimous. And from there, is there any questions around 11.2? Actually, I had one, so I'd like to see 11.2 moved to, quickly in, quickly out. We'll go right before appointments and presentations. It's just after 6. So we'll call it 6.05. So I'd like the motion to receive 5.1 and 5.2, please.
That would be me, Your Worship.
Yes, Councillor Coulson, thank you.
If we could accept for information items 5.1 and 5.2.
Excellent. All those in favor? It's unanimous. And if you could make the same motion to move 11.2 to just under appointments and presentations, please. Sorry, go ahead, Sharon.
If I may, Your Worship, having moved it to the consent agenda, your questions could be responded to right quickly, right now, before you go forward to appointments and presentations.
Chris, just a quick question. Was this structure like I was thinking like a tennis bubble where in the summertime you take it off and the wintertime it's on? Is that didn't seem the way it was written? Can you just sort of clarify what it was we were scoping out there?
Through the chair, good evening again.
Good evening.
Basically, I did it 3 ways here. I did it as a full-on structure, roof structure with walls, and a type of just roof. And then the third way was I called it a dynamic air shelter. So basically, that's the balloon effect that you would take on and take off.
Yeah. So was that going to be removed then? Is that what the plan was?
It was, yes.
Okay. Okay, I wasn't clear on that. And what was the cost on that particular line? Sorry, I can't get my computer up here.
Through the chair, just the dynamic air shelter, it would have been $800,000.
Okay, and that didn't include any operational dollars, lights, staffing, heat?
Through the chair, no, it did not.
No, okay. Does anybody else have any questions? Thank you, Councillor Coulson.
No, my light's on. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay. Any other questions for Chris as it relates to these items? No, any further detail they'd like to see? Well, I would, just for fun, like to see what that would look like if you included those items. Just because there has been a fair amount of interest in the community, and to build this permanent structure would require a lot more dollars. And yeah, I know $800,000 is a lot of money, but it certainly would create an opportunity for, I mean, that park is heavily used.
It is.
There are hundreds of kids there all summer long, every day.
Daily, yeah.
Yeah, so I did a spot interview with, I think 10 or 20 or 30, I can't remember, but it was a large crowd and they were all very keen on something. So I'd like to make a motion that we just get more detail on the on and off piece, what it would cost, when it would come off, when it would come on, that kind of thing, and to light it, to heat it, to do the things you would need to do to make it livable in -20.
I will come back with something.
Okay, thank you. I have to get that motion approved by my colleagues. Sorry, you want to say something, Councillor Coulson?
Yeah, I was just going to say that I am of the same mind, but I'm almost wondering if you would have a different type of an indoor skate park. Like, you might, with a new rec facility or a new park, be able to build a second skate park, which is really needed in this community as well. So
yep.
I don't know if we should.
All I'm doing is, is it a huge amount of work to do, Chris, to get that information?
Through the chair, no, it's not.
Then I'm going to stick with my motion.
That motion.
Thank you so much. All those in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you, Chris. Appreciate
Have a good evening.
Yeah, you too. All right.
Sorry, Your Worship.
Yes, go ahead.
Can I make the motion to please accept item 5.3? Oh, we don't need to now? Okay.
No,
sorry.
it's, yeah, we're good there. 6.1, Councillor, we have appointments and presentations. Councillor Burley for introductions, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. We have a resident coming forward with a concern that they'd like us to address with regards to a decision from the Traffic Advisory Committee. Mr. Bizensky?
Hello. I had a sketch that I thought might help council to understand where I was coming from.
I think, Mr. Bazinski, we're going to pull it up. Carrie does have that sketch.
Oh, okay. It might help to explain a little bit about what I'm talking about.
There we go. Not quite.
Yeah, that's got most of it. I guess I won't have a pointer, but you can probably see.
Wait, no, we have a mouse we can provide. Yep.
Don't see any mice here.
Yes, that is a good thing. And we have an animal control bylaw coming up. Just isn't that interesting? You bring up mice.
That's really appropriate.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, I'll just continue on. First, thank you for the opportunity to make this presentation. I own a bi-level home in Kings Heights at 2498 Kingsland Road. It's the one with all the little diagrams on it there. We've lived there for just over 4 years. As can be seen from the sketch, our home was built about 4 feet away from the alley. And we get a lot of vehicles that park right beside the house and idle. The exhaust fumes from these parked and idling vehicles enter our home through the open windows and the fresh air inlets. There's 4 open windows right beside the alley and 1 just off to the side. And the fresh air inlets to our furnace room and to all of the home is right adjacent to the alley. Now, it seems that there's 3 primary reasons why vehicles park and idle beside our home. The vehicle occupants go to pick up their mail at the community mailbox, which I have indicated there, and they sometimes stay and visit. These visits can last like 10 or 15 minutes while their vehicles idle beside our home. The second reason is they park and wait to pick up their kids coming off the school buses, which is over on the bottom right hand. You can't quite see it where the school buses stop, but it's one of the places where the parents park because street parking really is not available. It's usually all taken up. And the third reason is that drivers stop to talk or text on their phones before driving onto Kingsland Road. Now, I estimate that vehicles park and idle beside our home from 1 to 4 times per day. So let's say on average twice per day, that's over 700 times a year. Now, we all know that exhaust fumes are foul smelling, but they're also carcinogenic. In order to eliminate or at least reduce this problem for me and my family, in November of 2014, a request was made to the Airdrie Traffic Advisory Committee, or TAC, to have no parking and no idling signs installed in the alley beside our home. A TAC meeting was held on December 10th, 2014. I had requested but was denied permission to attend this meeting. I wanted to be there to make my case or answer questions. Apparently, TAC meetings are held in secret. On December 12th, 2014, a man identifying himself as the manager of municipal enforcement phoned me and said that TAC had decided to deny my request for the installation of signs because drivers do not obey these kind of signs, implying that installing the signs would just be a waste of the city's time and resources. TAC's response to my request was basically to do nothing. I believe that TAC's reasoning is wrong, and I firmly believe that most drivers are law-abiding and that the majority of drivers would obey official signs. Meantime, my problem of vehicle exhaust fumes entering our home hasn't gone away. Doing nothing hasn't worked. I was, and I still am, very disappointed with the members of TAC, that in their decision to deny my request, they seem to not care that my family and my grandchildren are being poisoned in our own home by having to breathe in carcinogenic vehicle exhaust fumes. All because TAC was not willing to approve the installation of a couple of signs that might mitigate or at least reduce our problem. The TAC members should be ashamed of themselves. How heartless. Doing nothing has never solved or alleviated a problem. The origin of my problem, I believe, goes back to the original developer. A house should never have been built like 4 feet away from an alley. As you can see, all the other homes are like in the order of 40 or 50 feet away from the alley. But our home is where it is. So I am hereby pleading with council to please overturn TAC's decision of December 10th, 2014, which was to do nothing, and to direct the appropriate city department to install 2 no parking anytime signs beside my house and 1 no vehicle idling sign across from our home on the opposite side of the alley. I realize that the parents need to pick up their kids, but if they had signs there that said no idling, they might respectfully turn their engines off. An alternative action may be to close off the alley at Kingsland Road. Now, since I'm here anyway, another problem in our neighborhood is that a lot of vehicles speed along Kingsland Road, mostly in the evening and at night, especially on weekends. I estimate some vehicles reach speeds in excess of 80 to 90 kilometers per hour. So please direct traffic enforcement to look into and do something about these extreme speeders. Maybe rumble bumps, maybe photo radar, something. And that's the end of my presentation.
Thank you, sir. And sorry, it's Mr. Bazinski. Am I pronouncing your last name correctly?
Yeah, Dennis Bazinski.
Thank you, Mr. Bazinski. Oh.
That's a kind of a tongue twister.
Yeah, it was for me, yeah. That's for sure. I think it was the mice that threw me off earlier. So first things first, let's deal with the TAC decision. I see we've got members of TAC here. They probably got the decision in front of them, so I'd like to hear from TAC if I can. And then we'll address the speeding question afterwards.
All right.
Sorry, Lauren, welcome. Thank you.
Your Worship and members of council, as Mr. Bazinski has indicated, this matter was reviewed by the Traffic Advisory on December 10th, 2014. And I guess a couple of things that came to light with respect to that in terms of the TAC discussion. One was in terms of idling. The city does not have an anti-idling ordinance and nor a signage or enforceable bylaw with respect to that. In terms of the parking that occurs in the laneway, the one thing I did want to note and came up in the TAC deliberations is that through the traffic bylaw, there is a period of time allowed for loading and unloading. And in the most recent version of the traffic bylaw, it does indicate that for the purposes of, and this is speaking to parking in alleys, that for the purpose of loading or unloading goods or passengers from a motor vehicle other than a commercial vehicle, there can be a period of not to exceed 15 minutes. So there is temporary parking allowed in current city bylaw with respect to that. The one other component that came up in the TAC deliberations as well is that with respect to the concern about carbon monoxide, I know there have been some subsequent follow-ups both with our building inspection department, and my understanding as well is that our emergency services have been over, our fire has been over to undertake some sampling or to investigate some air quality concerns with respect to that. I did go back and saw some correspondence on file from the, this was the manager of municipal enforcement at the time, and a couple of comments that he'd indicated in his discussions with Mr. Baczynski was that that Mr. Baczynski could call Airdrie Municipal Enforcement or RCMP to make a complaint, and an officer would be dispatched to investigate that in the case of extended parking. I think there was also some concern that there was some inappropriate activity occurring in vehicles, and that was also seen as a way to address any inappropriate behavior. And I guess the final comment I would offer council is there was a concern with respect to putting no parking signs in this particular portion of the alleyway, in that if you simply sign this portion of the alleyway, it may leave the impression with other users of the alleyway that you could just park permanently a little farther down the laneway, or you would be in a position where you would have to post all alleyways specifically with no parking signs, even though that is already indicated in the bylaw. So I guess I offer those as some perspectives and background to the TAC discussion that occurred on December 10th, 2014. And happy to answer any questions in relation to that. Thank you.
Thank you, Lauren. And we're going to go right to left. Councillor Colston first, and Councillor Burke.
Thank you, Your Worship. Mr. Baczynski, do you have a fence on that side of your property?
No, I don't. No.
So it's just open?
So it's just open,
Okay.
so it'd be easy to install a signpost, and that there'd be nothing to obstruct it.
So
my home is a bi-level, so there's two sets of windows that are like from 1.5 feet above ground to like 4 feet above ground, and then another set of windows like 9 feet above ground to 12 feet above ground.
have you considered putting up a fence to mitigate some of the exhaust that may be wafting into your home?
Well, like I said, there's two sets of windows, so I have to build a fence like 20 feet high so that it wouldn't get in the upper windows.
Okay. So
no, I hadn't considered putting up a fence. I don't like fences. So I wasn't going to put up a fence. Plus, also, no fence would make it real easy to put in signposts.
Okay. So back to Lauren. Through the chair, is there anything preventing Mr. Baczynski from putting up his own sign saying, please respect our home and our open windows and do not idle?
Through the chair, there is nothing that prevents a sign being placed on private property of that nature. The issue is, though, that it is not, if in the absence of it being a city sign with an appropriate bylaw behind it, is not an enforceable bylaw from the.
And neither is the no idling
That's
signs in
correct.
front of schools that you see in school zones and drop-off
That's
locations,
correct.
right?
That is
Okay.
correct.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Burley.
Oh, sorry, Your Worship.
Talking about a sign on your own property, I put a no parking sign in our window, which is on our property, and it says no parking, but it's not an official sign. people don't see it like you do a sign, so they park right beside the sign, obviously not seeing it, or else they wouldn't park there. So I've tried that route. So my thoughts were, if it were an official street sign, that when you drive up, you see it, it might have a little more impact.
Councillor Hunter.
Through the chair, Mr. Brzezinski, do you have, how many carbon monoxide detectors do you have in your house?
I have 2, but they never go off. But
so where are they located?
One on each level in the hallway.
So is there anything in close proximity to the windows? So the point of entry, I'm assuming you have one by your furnace, right? So if you're saying that the carbon monoxide would enter your furnace, your fresh air intake for your furnace, that with a combustion in your furnace, certainly if it's a newer one and it's calibrated, if there are hazardous levels, it would set it off. If the fire services came into your house and detected a certain level of carbon monoxide, they would evacuate. I would suggest that if you had a couple of those in place and they did go off, then you would have a valid complaint that you know, your house is not inhabitable. But I would encourage you to put them by the points of entry, the windows, and get the one checked if it's by your furnace, because if it's not going off with the firing of your own furnace and the car's parking, I would suggest it might be a nuisance as opposed to being a physical hazard, because the tolerance, and Chief's here, he can maybe speak to typically what those are calibrated to. I'm not familiar with it myself, but I know in my facilities we have them, and when they go off, we take action very quickly. So I would encourage you to look into those things.
Yeah, have you ever smelled exhaust fumes?
Yes, sir.
Vehicle? Yeah, it's really foul smelling, and it comes in our home. I mean, the monitors don't go off because I've got 2 in each of the hallways. The fire department was over and looked at them 2 years ago, and they said, yeah, no, that's normal, that's good. But I mean, it's the constant 700 or 800 times a year that these vehicle exhaust fumes are coming into our home. I've made an effort, and I've gone outside and talked to some of the drivers, and they said, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realize that my exhaust fumes were entering your home, I'll move. Now, but I'm not in traffic enforcement, and to me it seems so logical that put up a couple of signs that says no parking. Most drivers might go by the law.
And I get that, and I appreciate your time and effort. You had referred to carcinogenic and saying that you had implied that staff have no concern that your grandkids and yourself are subjected to that. I would suggest that if you have carbon monoxide detectors, they're meant to detect hazardous levels. And again, there's a nuisance level, there's a hazardous level. There's different ways of you know, mitigating hazards and risks. I would suggest, if you're concerned first and foremost about the hazard to your grandchildren, yourself, from a carcinogenic standpoint, that, you know, if it takes a couple more carbon monoxide detectors closer to where the entry points are, great, peace of mind. Again, there's a difference between something that is a nuisance and something that's a health hazard. I concur that yes, it's a nuisance for sure, but again, in the challenge that we're faced, I have a neighbor right now that doesn't want anybody to park in front of his house, and so as soon as you park in front of his house, he puts a note on your car saying, please respect me and don't park in front of my house. The car's not running or anything, so, but again, TAC has to go across the city and decide, what are we going to do if they do it in that, as Mr. Stevens had said, that would imply and that would create bigger burdens. So we have to come up with something that's going to hopefully meet your needs. I would suggest getting carbon monoxide detectors closer to the source, and if it is a hazard, I mean, certainly the fire department can step in and say this is creating a hazard, and they can certainly advise TAC that maybe something needs to be done.
Well, the fire department was there. They had all their detectors and around, and there wasn't any vehicles parked, and there wasn't any exhaust fumes coming in at the moment they were there. Like, it only happens, you know, who knows when it happens throughout the day. But so we have the carbon monoxide detectors. It still is causing so much harm to my family, and the detectors aren't going off because I know it's carcinogenic and I know it's foul smelling. And I think that someone should make an effort to try to do something to alleviate my problem rather than to blame the victim and say, here, victim, you go and do this and you go do that.
Well, thank you for coming in. We've had to make a decision.
Okay.
So Mr. Bazinski, I hate idling cars too. I shouldn't say that on a video camera. My neighbors now park in front of my house possibly.
Who doesn't?
I'm not a fan of them. City trucks, I don't like them. I know emergency vehicles have to idle. But I tend to agree with Councillor Coulson. The fact that you walked out, you said to someone reasonably, would you mind shutting off your engine while you sit here? It's just all the fumes come into my home and they do that. Why wouldn't you just plunk a sign there and say, please don't idle in front of my house? To me, that would be...
Okay, I was told I can't put up any signs.
Well, I just heard from Mr. Stevens that you can.
Well, the guy that phoned me 2004, I asked him, can I put my signs up? And he said, no. I said, well, I'm going to put some signs in my window.
You're not making a demand. You're please asking, right? You're asking, would you respect the people if you're in, please turn off your car while you're waiting for your kids or whatever. You can do it reasonably. Most people are pretty reasonable. I mean, you go to a car wash, I'm always amazed that people sit there while the car is spinning around with the car running.
I'm not up 24 hours a day. It might happen at midnight or 2 in the morning.
It could. But the other piece is, so how many other homes are built similar to yours?
I don't know. That's my question. There's hardly any.
The request would come in from every other resident that has a similar situation. I need a no parking stall. You know how many people would request council for no parking stalls in front of their homes? The line would be endless of people that would require that. I don't believe there's anything we can do immediately, but I think you have the tools right now to alleviate the problem by putting a sign out front. Lauren, am I incorrect in suggesting that be done?
Yeah, through the chair, it falls certainly into a gray area of what an individual does on their own property to bring forward those types of signs. I think I have seen folks where they've said, you know what, we unload our handicapped child here, please respect this area. And I think generally when folks want to be good neighbors, they can be good neighbors. It is the thing I'm just emphasizing to council and Mr. Bazinski is that staff are unable to enforce a signage that is not city sanctioned signage.
Okay. Any other comments from council as it relates to the presentation that you'd like to see? Yes, Councillor Coulson.
I would just like to reiterate that I think it would be a great opportunity for you to put a sign saying, please respect the air quality in our home and shut your vehicles off while you're parked. I think most people are very reasonable, especially when they're picking up their young children. They understand when they see those signs, and you can bring it right to your property line. You can put a couple where the sight lines will be, you know where they park, so you know the best position for them. So I think that would be a good first step for you.
Yeah, I'll do that. I'll stick up a 2x4 and put a sign on it, and so that they can see it. But I was told 2 years ago that I couldn't do that.
It could have also been on public property that you're not permitted to do that, but when it's on your own property, then we're getting the okay. Yeah. So.
But okay. I also don't know if there are any other homes in Airdrie that are in my unique situation where they're 3 or 4 feet away from the alley, right beside a community mailbox, and right beside the school bus pickup.
Condos where you have parking right out front. I mean, we inhaled the smoking of our neighbor for years and years, and idling of diesel trucks.
Yeah, diesel trucks.
I know it happens, and I know it's within feet of people's windows. So it's unfortunate that happens, but it is very common. And hopefully in this case, you can prevent some of that by putting up your own sign and dealing with it that way.
If it happened once in a while, it wouldn't be bad. But if it happens 700 or 800 times a year, that's quite a bit.
And putting up that sign will make people think, right? They'll sit there, they'll read it, and they'll think, oh, they'll look at your intake. Yep. They'll see your windows, and then it'll click in, and hopefully they'll shut that.
That's what I need is a sign. So I'll put up a sign.
Mr. Bazinski, I just encourage you to be really pleasant with your warning. I think if it says don't do this, people tend to do it anyway. I hate to say that, but we've seen examples of that throughout the communities. If you can be as pleasant as possible with your signage, just to say please respect the people who live here and shut your vehicle off. However, Councillor Coulson addressed that. I think you're going to see a big drop.
Can I just add, Your Worship?
Yes, go ahead, please.
I would just like to add, maybe you could connect with our communications team. They could probably give you some really good tips on how to word your signage to get better results.
And Linda's sitting right back there with the blonde hair. She doesn't want us pointing her out, but she's right there. And she'd be happy to talk to you after your presentation, Mr. Brzezinski.
All right. Yep.
Okay. Thank you very much. I really appreciate you coming in.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Councillor Burley, please.
Motion to accept for information, Your Worship.
Thank you. All those in favor? It is unanimous. Item number 7, public question period. I'll ask if there's anybody present who'd like to ask a question of council. Welcome.
Welcome, council. Welcome, Honorable Mayor, media, and the public. My name is Richard Douglas Oshlom Herdman. I live at 1840 Meadowbrook Drive. I'll try and keep my comments short into the 5-minute period.
Sorry, Mr. Herdman, we want to make sure we have questions, not comments.
Yes.
This is public question period.
Yes.
So if you can keep your comments to I've been always very liberal, right? I've always given you lots of time, but we have a lot of people here tonight. There's a lot of words to be said. We got to stick to public question period. So give us your questions and we'll do our best to answer them. If we can't, we'll make sure to get back to you.
Sir, just a solution for Mr. Brzezinski's problem. It's an engineering problem.
Okay, so if that's what you're here for, are you going to ask a question of
engineering? No, I'm going to ask a question, but...
Okay, well then that's a comment, so let's keep it to questions. As soon as we can get through this, okay? Please, Thank you.
Okay. The question is about Section 1001 of Bylaw 788, which is the old dog protection law. And right after I speak, I assume you're going to be talking about the new animal control bylaw. Section 5 readdresses that same law. And since you guys are the lawmakers, and you have to educate yourself about what the law is, what it means, the punishment, the fines that flow from it, that law is this: no person, and you can substitute person for corporation, shall negligently or willfully cause a gate to be left open and cause a dog to run at large. And that section of law is read into every city in North America. And it flows from the concept of duty of care, where you and me all have a duty to look after each other's safety and the dog. So the question right now is, there are no physical latches on the gated fenced dog compound over at Nose Creek. So when those tensioner springs wear out, the wind causes those gates to blow open and the dogs will get on the railway tracks. Now, that happened over where I normally walk my dogs, but I also walk them at Nose Creek. The city has put gate latches at the Kingsway Dog Park down by Sharp Hill, but they've neglected to put them on the gates at Nose Creek. And also they've neglected to put on signs that say, keep the gate closed. And I'm just advising the council that the standard and duty of care is the Sue Higgins Dog Park, which is in the city of Calgary, right on the Deerfoot Trail, right at Southland. And they have the same gates that we do. And I don't think council understands the danger and the emergency that exists. And the new bylaw that you're going to pass defines what emergency is. So that means you guys, you men and women, are duty bound to understand that right now we have a negligent condition existing in the gated, fenced dog parks.
Sorry, just a question, Mr. Minnesota, would that apply to Nose Hill Park in Calgary? Same situation, off-leash park. I don't think there's a fence around all of Nose Hill. I think it's wide open. So that's City Calgary, they're same thing? Is that what you're suggesting?
No, I'm referring to a gated and fenced.
Gated and fenced only. Okay, just want clarification. First up, Archie, can you come forward? Just answer the question. If there is, sorry, I haven't been to the dog park on that side. I know there's tension or, we can't always rely on people to close the door behind them, so that's why we put them on there so the gates swing closed. and everybody stays in there. Can you answer the question as to why we'd have a latch on the east side dog park, or both the east sides, or I'm not sure which one? If you could just address that for me, Archie, please.
We do have springs on both gates, and they do close. There may not be a latch on both of them, but the gates do close, and I believe that they're quite adequate.
Sorry, so we have a latch on one. Just curious why we have a latch on one and not the other one.
I'm honestly, Your Worship, I'm not sure. If there's a latch on both
Sorry
of
to
them.
put you on the spot. I just figured I'd ask a question since Mr. Herdman was there. Excellent, thank you. Councillor Coulson.
So, Your Worship, I'm at the dog parks daily, and I can say that the spring-loaded gates at Nose Creek don't have latches, but at Kings Heights they have latches, but they're not spring-loaded anymore, correct, Archie? Like the springs broke, and now they're latched.
No, through Your Worship, the spring at one time was broken. It's been replaced.
So now they're spring-loaded and they're latched.
At Kings Heights.
At Kings Heights only. And at Nose Creek, it took them 24 hours to come back and fix the spring once that spring-loaded one broke. But I don't know at Kings Heights. It seems to be a bigger problem. I don't know if it's the wind or more usage. I wouldn't think you'd have more usage at Kings Heights, but I know that we see a lot of problems with the latch system there. But the spring-loaded ones at Nose Creek work, and just wanted to contribute that to the conversation.
Yes, through Your Worship, the one at Nose Creek, it's a sprung gate, and the gate itself springs back onto a plate.
Sorry, is there anybody on the administrative side that can answer the question? Are we in somehow contravention of our own rules as it relates to not having a latch on a gate this evening, or do we need to postpone that for another time? Because I don't know what the answer is. I don't believe anybody in council knows, do you? No.
Your Worship,
thank you. Yes, thank you.
I am not in a position to respond to that.
Okay, so can I just get a motion that we look into that? Thank you. Councillor Hunter, what the motion is?
To look into and report back on why we have it, or why we...
Where our responsibilities lie?
We should have them on all of them, or we shouldn't. I'm sure there's a reason, right? So.
Perfect.
Okay, thanks.
Yes, sorry, Councillor Coulson.
Just to add to that, we need to be very clear about, do we have a higher responsibility at a fenced-in, gated dog park versus the open, off-leash areas that don't have any gates?
As far as Mr. Herdman just said, he's not concerned about the larger park. So, okay, all those in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Herdman.
Thank you, Council. It's not to be mean-spirited. It's just to say that when we also have these extra parks, they're only about 3 years old, and Council can't be up on every possible...
We never take your commentary as mean-spirited, sir. No concern whatsoever.
And last quick question that is for very quick.
Really, really, really quick.
Very quick. Okay. Is what I use the Genesis Place all the time, and I ran into somebody from Aish, limited income, and they have cystic fibrosis, and I got talking about the low-income pass entry fee at Genesis Place, and so the person was aghast that they had spent an extra $500, and they actually lived in Catherine or someplace, and why they weren't told about the low-income fee that people can have to enter Genesis Place.
Sorry, who would they talk to at Genesis Place?
And
Mr. Lockhart or... Sorry, Michelle?
So the question, though, is what I found out was the Genesis Place used to process those passes. Then the city hall used to process them. But now they are by city policy by Community Links. So now we've forced people to go to Community Links. And
actually, you know what? Michelle's sitting right there. We'll ask her real quickly.
Okay, but
actually, you can take your seat while she responds.
Okay, no, but the question
thank you very much.
The question is, can the city bring back the application procedure?
Well, first of all, I'm not sure that you're correct. We're going to get that verified right now. Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you.
Good evening, Your Worship and members of Council. Over the last year, we've worked with Community Links to do one-stop intake for individuals who would like to access all of our participant support programs that Council has purchased. So we do that once, rather than the previous system where if you wanted the participant support pass, you would make application to Transit. If you wanted one for Genesis Place, you would make application there. So we've streamlined that process so that residents only have to do the intake process once. Given that Community Links does intake as part of their business, we have contracted that to them so that, again, citizens who are looking for those kinds of supports only have to tell their story once and do one application.
So, sorry, just dumb question. Anybody coming into Genesis Place would be directed to Community Links then? They
Yes.
know the contact and
Yes,
everything else?
That's right. We provide
Perfect.
all of that. Then they get a card, and when they come in, they show their card, and the fee reflects their level of support.
Was not fully aware of that. It's excellent. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Mr. Herdman. Is there anyone else who would like to come forward and ask a question of council?
Thank you, sir.
Please, welcome. You're welcome. Welcome, sir. If this is about airplanes, you know that was last week's meeting, right? No, I'm just kidding. Whenever you're ready.
My name is Kevin Miles. I live in Meadowbrook. Just a very quick question about the new animal bylaw. It says in there that if you have a cat problem, you can get traps. Is that at a cost to the resident, or is that a cost to the city?
So are you sticking around for the meeting?
Yes.
Perfect. So let's answer that question, because that'll be the presentation that comes forward, and we're going to be on that right next.
Okay.
Okay.
And regarding airplanes, that's my favorite topic, right, for everyone who knows me. I've had many conversations with Calgary Airport Authority, and I guess they're fed up with me now, because now I'm been pushed on to NAV Canada. They no longer want to talk to me at Calgary Airport Authority. I guess they're tired of me complaining about planes flying about 300 feet above my house. So I thought I'd pass that on too. Thank you.
I was amazed the other day on Sunday. I saw a gentleman flossing in row 7 just over my house. So they seem to be getting lower, that's for sure. But it is a great anyway. It's a dilemma we're going to have to continue to live with. That's for sure. So we're moving on to. We're going to close public question period. Sorry, if there's anyone else who'd like to come forward. If it is regarding the proposed bylaw, you'll definitely have ample opportunity to come forward. So from there, we're moving on to item 8, and this is the public input session, and we're going to run it like a public hearing. I'm going to open it up. Once the presentation's been made, I'll open it up to speaking for, but it's kind of a for and against in my mind. You can be for parts of it, but identify where you have concerns. It'd be really helpful for council. If you hear the same comment over and over again, just bring it to my attention, because you don't need to come up. You can raise your hand and say, yes, I have a problem with that portion of the bylaw, and we can get a good idea as to where people sit. But from there, I'd like to ask Lynn to come forward, and I know she's raring to go. Welcome. Carrie, if we could dim the lights as well, please.
Good evening, Your Worship and members of Council. I'm here tonight to present the proposed animal control bylaw. Council has been asked to give 3 readings to bylaw B 33/2016, being the proposed animal control bylaw. So the animal control bylaw evolution began in January of 2015. At this time, we went to council asking input to help evaluate the initial changes to the bylaw. From there, we went for the initial public consultation, where we heard from nearly 200 people. We presented that information to council on May 25th, 2015. We then returned to council on October 5th with research, and at this time, we're directed to include cats in the proposed animal control bylaw. And over the last few months, municipal enforcement has been working to draft a bylaw that would include cats and the changes that council requested on the May 25th meeting. Just a brief overview of some of the changes requested. The 2-meter leash length, it was proposed to be a maximum of 2 meters. We had comments both for and in favor of this section. The section was revised, and the focus was put on dogs being under control rather than including specific leash lengths. The initial bylaw did not include cats. We had input both for and against the inclusion of cats, with the majority wanting to include cats. Within the current draft, this is just a brief overview of what this would look like. The actual fee, though, for cats is $60, not $50, and a limit of 6 cats per household. The procedure for trapping cats will be clearly outlined and it's in your package at the back of the bylaw, and it would not be done by peace officers. Dogs and motor vehicles. The initial draft said that dogs' muzzle would not be allowed outside of the window. We received input both for and in favor, with the majority against.
Sorry to interrupt you, Lynn. Just because there's people that may not have read the report, will you be getting into so when you said the peace officer will not, so will you be getting forward into the cost associated with that within your presentation, or can you address it during this part of it? I'm just curious.
I can address it now if you would like, or I can address it at the end of the presentation.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that everybody's aware of that, because I'm not sure everybody had a chance to look at the report. Thank you.
So in the current draft, it states that the animal must be restrained in a manner that prevents contact between the animal and any member of the public, and this also includes in the back of a truck. Cycling with a dog, proposed that cycling or rollerblading would not be allowed, both for and against this section, with the majority against. This section has been deleted, and the definition of animal at large now includes animals which are under the control of a person responsible by means of a leash. Number of dogs, proposed that no person can own more than 3 dogs. Received feedback that some residents would like to foster more than 3 dogs. This remains in the current version, that no person shall possess more than 3 dogs over the age of 3 months, including vicious dogs or foster dogs. There were some questions with regards to staff's qualifications and whether or not Airdrie municipal enforcement officers do have qualifications to provide animal control in Airdrie. All officers are appointed by the Solicitor General, and all officers are also certified with the animal control operation techniques. Vicious dog. Both the current dog control bylaw and the first draft of the animal control bylaw have a section on vicious animals. We just got some feedback that residents were a little bit confused about this. The main one was that people thought that, some residents thought that we would determine whether a dog would be vicious, and that's not the case. It would be the justice that would determine a dog to be vicious, and it has to be declared in a hearing. Bees and chickens. The first draft of the animal control bylaw included a section on prohibited animals and livestock. We actually did receive just a little bit of feedback on this recently, and this section has been reworded in an effort to align with the new land use bylaw and Airdrie's urban agriculture program. Number of dogs and foster dogs. Licensing, well, this came out, and we currently do this. So if you have a foster dog in your home, it's an annual license, and if you get another foster dog into your home, that you just have to phone in and change the name of that dog. Threatening behavior. Both the current dog control bylaw and the first draft of the animal control bylaw had a section on threatening behavior. We didn't really receive any feedback on this. We do have a new section on threatening behavior and nuisance animals, and it outlines more clearly what is considered threatening behavior and nuisance behavior, as well as there's an aggression scale classification. It's the Ian Dunbar classification scale, which is also included in the bylaw. Off-leash areas, we did get feedback around wanting more off-leash areas, and the current draft, this is addressed to the Parks Department, and also animals in heat and animals with communicable disease and vicious animals are prohibited in the off-leash areas. The major change was only allowing 3 dogs per person in an off-leash area. We also did some further public consultation after we made some of those changes, which included cats. We went to the Home and Lifestyle Show, Doggy Doo Days, through Twitter, City of Airdrie webpage, emails to businesses, pet stores, kennels, dog walkers, as many as we could find, posters to provide it to all pet stores, as well as some public engagement at the off-leash parks. This is just a brief overview of how many interactions we had. The Home and Garden Show was our most successful with approximately 300. Doggy Doo Days, we only had 6. I believe the weather wasn't great that day. And the off-leash park, it was very hit and miss depending on the weather as well. This is just a fine comparison as to what other communities have for their fines as well. As you can see, we're pretty comparable for most of the fines. Again, just a brief overview of the fines.
Sorry, Lynn, those are maximum, right? Not
yes.
minimum
yes.
fines.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And then officer can always choose to do court, which then the justice would determine what the actual fine was. This is the license fee comparison. As you can see, Airdrie and Calgary are approximately the same. Neutered spayed, Calgary's a little bit higher. Cats, we chose to go as consistent as possible with what dog owners are paying. But as you can see, within the other communities, most choose to do a lesser fee. Edmonton is one that their fee is $76 for both cats and dogs. And then it's, but if they're spayed or neutered, it's, I believe, $20 for cats and $36 for dogs. And I believe that's all for my presentation.
Thanks, Lynn. Just curious quickly on compliance. So I talked to a number of municipalities last week or so, and they have the cat bylaw, or sorry, the cat licensing piece of the bylaw. And the majority of them said the vast majority of people do not comply. Are you hearing the same things? And what percentage of the public? I have an idea of how many dogs live here. I have no idea on the cat side of things. I'm just curious from your perspective, please.
Through the chair, I believe that licensing all animals is a good idea. I know that Calgary, they have probably one of the best programs in North America where they have 90% successful licensing rate of their dogs and 45% successful licensing of their cats. And that also, by having such a successful program, it then is able to, they have the lowest euthanization rates in North America because of that program. So do I believe that it can be successful? Yes, I do.
Thank you. Before we open it up, any comments or questions for Lynn before we hear from the public? Oh, yes, Councillor Coulson.
I was just really curious why a resident can own 6 cats as per the bylaw and only half the amount of dogs. As we know, some dogs are much smaller than cats. It's just that inconsistency. I'm curious.
Through the chair, I wondered that myself, and we actually phoned all the way across Canada to find an answer as to why, you know, the 3-dog limit and the 6 cat limit. And quite frankly, there wasn't a very good answer other than that is the standard across Canada, even as to what the limits are.
So in Calgary, they have a 4-dog limit, correct?
Through the chair, no, Calgary has no limit.
No dog limit. And so then no cat limit as well. Okay, but a very low euthanasia level, so that's good to know. And then vicious dogs, I hear that you can start over in a different municipality. So if somebody has a vicious dog designation in Calgary, they can bring their vicious dog to Airdrie and not have to license it. I had heard Calgary's working towards having that cross borders so that we can enforce if you don't let us know that your dog was vicious in another community.
So, through the chair, the way that actually works is if it's declared vicious by the municipality, it is only within the municipality. If you go through an actual dangerous dog hearing through the Dangerous Dog Act, that dog is declared vicious by the province of Alberta.
Okay.
And it has to be declared if you relocate or you've actually violated your conditions to keep that dog.
And so that's a process we're going to follow. Not necessarily say Tabor had a vicious dog that was declared by their bylaw and that person moved here, it wouldn't be enforceable until that dog committed an offense here and went through the court system?
True enough, yeah.
Okay.
If we were to say, for example, have a vicious dog declared by the city, we could, if we know that that dog is relocating, courtesy the next community that dog has moved there. But unfortunately, yes, the owner would be under no obligation at that point to notify the community they're moving to, unless that dog has been declared vicious through a provincial court.
Which is what our process is going to do.
Correct.
Are we seeing other municipalities fall into that same type of thought process?
Through the chair, yes.
Yes, okay. Okay, thank you.
Lynn, sorry, I can't remember the officers last time. Could you introduce him, please?
Officer Left.
Thank you. That's good he left it to us. Sorry, officer. So question for both of you. First of all, you need to define the cost associated with the resident who doesn't like it, wants to trap a cat, right? So you need to do that. The second question is, so who came up with the number that this is the amount of dogs we can have? Because I phoned around, I was surprised. St. Albert has no cap. There's a number of communities in Alberta that do not cap the amount of dogs someone can own in their home. So I'm just curious, where did that come from in your research? What drove it? And why would our neighbors to the south of the 1 million+ people have an unlimited amount of dogs and they have compliance, according to you guys, 95% with their dogs? They've got all these great things going on. I'm just curious why we wouldn't have sort of followed their lead.
Through the chair, my understanding was council a few years ago made that decision to go with the three dog limit because of some kennels that were popping up within the city. I believe that was the choice. And as I said, there are some that do have no limit, but there are also quite a few municipalities that do have a limit.
You're not supposed to blame the mayor in public, you know that, Lynn. I don't recall that conversation. There's a possibility I could have voted against it. I don't know. I'm just thinking aloud, but I appreciate your answer. So could you get to the cost associated with you need to get a trap, you need to pay for something, and then what's the process after you capture the animal? You drive it somewhere. Where is it housed? Who's looking after it? Who contacts? All of those things. If you could walk me through that process, please.
Through the chair. So the cost, it would just be a deposit to come in and get a cat trap from municipal enforcement, and I believe the deposit we're going to put in place would be $100. You would have the trap for 72 hours. You would have to sign off on how the procedures on how that cat trapping would work. So we wouldn't be, if it's too cold or too hot, there's specific temperatures. It shouldn't be done overnight. You would be allowing an officer to go onto your property at any time to ensure that that trap is actually being used appropriately. If a cat trap, if you do happen to catch a cat, then we would request that you bring it into municipal enforcement as soon as possible and no longer than 24 hours. And under the Animal Protection Act, you are required to treat all animals humanely, so that would be providing water and shelter. And you can only place the trap on your property. You can't place the trap on another person's property.
Thank you very much. Councillor Hunter.
So through the chair, I guess a couple questions, cat related. So hopefully I won't catch a black cat with a white stripe, but other animals in the neighborhood. And so what is to, so if I want to, if I have a cat constantly in my flower bed and I catch that cat and something happens to the cat gets injured. I mean, so how do we deal with that, sort of the liability to that? Somebody could say, well, my cat is missing a leg or whatever, anything, right?
From our research, the cat traps are very humane, and to my knowledge, there hasn't been any issues specifically with cats being injured in the traps. The potential risk would be if somebody just chooses not, like catches a trap, or catches a cat, pardon me, and doesn't bring the cat in quickly enough.
Okay. So, and now what about other types of animals getting into the trap?
Well, I'm sure probably a skunk. And you would have to phone Fish and Wildlife.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, Councillor Coulson.
just before I forget that train of thought, if we did phone Fish and Wildlife, you have a skunk and a cat trap, we know that they will definitely come out and deal with it because, okay, because I have heard residents calling Fish and Wildlife and they're saying, call your municipal enforcement.
Sorry, through the chair, if I may on that, yeah, Fish and Wildlife with smaller animals like skunks and badgers are, unfortunately, they're very short-staffed in Alberta. They're not easily relied upon to come and deal with smaller things like that. If you're not able or willing to relocate an animal such as that yourself, you're honestly better off calling a pest control.
And paying the fee to have them come out and deal with it.
Unfortunately, yes. Within our what we're allowed to work with, we aren't, number one, trained or by policy able to come and deal with wildlife in that manner. That's pretty much where we stand on it. Is
that in the waiver for the cat traps, that if you catch something that is not a cat, it's your responsibility to deal with removal of that animal?
Yes, it is.
And cleaning of the cage? Yes.
Our department would also have to ensure that the cage is clean, so we would also.
Okay.
Yeah, you can't rely on necessarily.
Okay. Okay. I totally lost my train of thought thinking about a skunk in a cat trap, so I'll wait if there's more questions.
That's funny. So just a question around revenue. So all the revenue you capture from dog licenses, I should know this, but I don't. Where does it go? Does it go back into the programs, back into dog off-leash parks, percentage of it, or does it go into general revenue and further to the new licensing fees? Where are they going to be ending up?
Through the chair, it goes into general revenue.
Okay, so on the cats, the new revenue that you're predicting, that'll go back into general revenue, not into specific dog parks or efficiencies,
no.
Doggy Doo Day, things like that? Because other communities actually earmark $10 from every license to go back into those such things. So that may be something we want to consider in the future. You've got your skunk thought cleared up?
It's back,
Councillor Coulson, please.
Thank you. Just wondering about baiting the traps. I didn't see anything in there. I had a concerned resident talk to me about a neighbor that might be trying to bait cats, that they didn't want to see any baiting allowed in those cat traps. Is that... I didn't see it addressed, but maybe I didn't read the detail well enough. Like a can of tuna in a cat trap, is that going to be allowed?
It doesn't require a bait, the cat trap, so it shouldn't be allowed. We could put something in the procedure. There's nothing in specifically that says that you can't do that, but we do agree that no, we should probably put something in the procedure that says
so
specifically,
baiting,
yes.
No baiting the cats, okay. And then the limit for having the off-leash dogs, so the limit of 3. Been at the park often, I see the packs, I see the dog walking businesses. They're really impacted by that rule, like, incredibly impacted. So I've had requests of 4, I've had requests of 6. The average people are asking me for is 6. So I'm just wondering how we have a limit for the off-leash dog parks, but then we have you must be in control of your animal. Because you have people with 2 dogs that are not in control of their animals. And then you have people with 6 dogs that are in complete control. So just wondering about some information there.
Can I just ask, so how do you know they're in complete control, the 6? So these are someone else's dogs that they're managing, right?
I guess they're confident just from what I've witnessed.
Yeah, and I'm just curious because I've watched them defecate.
Yeah.
There was one in particular, and she was going after one going, and the 4 other ones were going too. There's no way she could catch them. So I'm just curious on that level.
Well,
anyway.
and I see it with 2 dogs too, right? Or people just choose not to pick it up. But I'm just talking about being in control.
Yep.
So you have a pack of 6 dogs meeting another pack of 6 dogs.
No.
I get that it can get out of control, but at the same time, a person walking 2 dogs cannot be in control of their animals. So we have that. Must not have more than 3 dogs in the park, but you must be under control of your dogs. So I struggle with that a little bit.
So through the chair. So the logic we've taken on that, number 1 is if you're allowed to possess and own 3 dogs, you should be allowed to walk your dogs. respectfully, I give to you the question of people that want to have 6 dogs, such as the dog walkers. Would you go around your neighborhood, pick 6 random kids, and go to the mall?
Well, I have. So I think that's a poor. That's a poor question.
So,
you got to do what you got to do. You got 6
those
kids.
6
you're
children
taking
running around.
Let's clarify, they weren't random. You knew the neighbors.
They had gone through strict interview processes to be able to come with me to the mall that day.
You know what you're getting into there, but so six dogs that aren't your own are not in control by one person. That's evident. I don't believe what anyone says they're in control. They're not. And that's the standpoint we've taken on it. Personally, yeah, I feel 3 probably is too much for most people.
I would say that potential is there for one dog, for people to not be in control of their one dog, myself included. They're unpredictable. Sometimes you just don't know, especially in those off-leash areas. I'm just asking you, on behalf of those businesses that have built themselves over the years, being able to take anywhere from 3 to 6, I think 8 is a bit too much, but let's just go with the average of 6. They're quite concerned about how this is going to impact their business. I've also heard that, forget Airdrie, we're just going to go into Calgary and walk the dogs because there's no limit there. So it would be unfortunate to drive those businesses out of our community. I'm just putting that out there.
Through the chair, so we did reach out to as many as those businesses as we could, and we heard back from 4, and there was some concern about the 3. Most that we heard was that they wanted 4. Part of it for us too is that there's the unpredictable, as you said, about animals being just unpredictable, and when you have animals that you don't know what's going to maybe cause them to run away or do something when you're walking those dogs. And on top of that, even if you're in care and control of your dog, you don't know what another dog is going to do that may cause. And then furthermore, there's also the whole, when defecation in the parks, it's very hard if you have 6 dogs to know exactly where they're actually going to the bathroom and being able to clean it up. I can't imagine trying to do that. It would be a challenge in some of our, larger park areas. You probably wouldn't know, and we do get complaints about that. So this was sort of our attempt to sort of say, this is what we feel is reasonable for people to control. And because we say that 3 dogs are the limit, that is why the 3 dogs came into place. Cochrane did pass their bylaw, and it has a 4 dog limit in their off-leash parks.
So out of your dog incidences, do you find that they are out of larger packs, or are they out of individual walkers? Through the chair, I am not sure on that one. I can't answer. We could go back and review files as to see. Yeah, I know it's a bunch of different, but you've got the enforcement side of it, and then you have the people who are there all the time and they see where those problems lie, like with the dogs in heat, which you've addressed, which I think is excellent. I didn't see anything addressed with intact males in parks, which cause an awful lot of grief when you get 2 intact males at an off-leash area. They're very unpredictable, and it's no different than the females that are in heat. So was there any thought as to limiting that? I think there are many municipalities that have a no intact male rule as well.
We would have to look at that.
Okay, yeah. Thank you.
Okay, and Councillor Hunter, then we're going to turn it over to the public and let's hear what they have to say. A lot of those questions may come up. Councillor Hunter, please.
So if we approve this, and I was just trying to look back at what the proposed fees were. So if we adopt this, does that fee structure go into place automatically, or is that something that's going to come back to as normally does with setting fees?
Through the chair, I believe if you adopt this bylaw, then those fees would come into place.
You're correct. Yes.
At that moment in time. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
That would be tonight if it was approved. Yes. Okay. All right. So I'm going to open it up. You're welcome. Come on up. You have 5 minutes to present. What we'll try and do is we'll capture the information, and Lynn, if that's okay with you, rather than debate it back and forth, we'll capture the cues or the concerns and then have you guys address it after everyone's done, if that works for you. Okay, great. Thank you. Welcome. And if you could give your name and You don't have to give your new address, just the community you live in, please.
Kevin Hughes.
Allison Jones.
And we're in Midtown, or soon to be in Midtown once it's built. We have a couple concerns. First, I'd like to thank the staff because I think they've done an awesome job coming back and actually listening to the feedback we gave them last time. One question I had was with the foster dog. Where in the bylaw is it that it says you only have to pay it once? Because I couldn't find it.
We'll get that for you.
Okay. Now going on to the cat bylaw. I find it weird that we're charging $35 for a cat and $35 for a dog, yet when there's an issue with a dog, we send municipal enforcement out, yet if there's an issue with a cat, an untrained civilian is going to catch that cat. It's just not right. I'm paying the $35 fee. Why am I not getting the same service as my dog would? We have 2 dogs, we have 2 cats. I have no problem licensing the cats. I do have a problem with my neighbor catching my cat. Also, yeah, on that note too, thank you. Who's liable? Is the city liable if something happens to my cat in that trap? Is the city liable? Or is the person catching that cat liable? The other one was, it was just a small one. It mentioned the duties of the city manager in the bylaw, and the city manager in the bylaw has full rights to designate off-leash areas within the city. Is that correct? Is that the way did I read it correctly?
That's the way I read it as well.
I have a real issue with one person all of a sudden deciding, oh, we're going to put a off-leash area over here and another off-leash area over here. And what about my cat off-leash area? I'm paying the same fee. Shouldn't we have cat laws, cat rights? Being facetious. I'm not going to get answers, am I?
No, we're tracking them down. Okay. I'd be interested to hear what the city manager says. I understood he was putting a cat off-leash park in Midtown, but I'll talk to you about that later. No, I'm just kidding. Please continue.
I think that was, did I miss anything?
I think that's good.
That was it.
Okay, and you guys are foster parents for dogs, correct?
Yes,
we are.
Yeah, okay, so you're comfortable with everything. That's one of my key things.
I'm not a big fan of charging someone $20 to foster. It's $20, it's not a big deal. Will it deter some people? Probably. It might. It's $20. Some people can't afford $20. A lot of people foster, and the rescues actually supply the food and everything else for that dog.
Absolutely, they do. Yep.
Because people can't afford to do that. We're in a position where we're quite capable of paying the $20, and we don't take food from our rescue. But it's $20. It's not like you're going to charge $20 per dog.
Thank you for your response. That's duly noted for sure. Okay. Thanks, Kevin. And sorry, one last one. How many foster parents are in Airdrie on your guess? Because you're pretty connected to that community, right?
Jeez. To be honest, I have no idea.
Okay. Do we have any idea of that? Nope. No. Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much for coming in. Very welcome.
Hi there. My name is Darius Gibbington-Rothel, and I have a couple of questions about the cat bylaw. Through the chair to to bylaw. I'm really concerned about the trapping of cats by citizens. Given the number of cats we've been seeing dead on the side of the road, who may or may not have been hit by cars, I've been reading things about cats being poisoned. That really concerns me. All my cats are indoors, but if one of mine were to happen to get out for any reason and somebody picked up my cat and I'm paying $35 per cat, exactly how am is there some sort of way to ensure safety of the cat? For instance, checking with the person renting the traps if they've not been returned within 24 hours. How can we be sure citizens are not poisoning or hurting the cats? I really have an issue with that. And my second question is, will there be a system to report cruelty to cats if it's been witnessed? So if I witness my neighbor catching someone's cat and poisoning the cat, or someone tells me they've poisoned.
There is now.
Is there?
Absolutely.
Okay.
You want to get a hold of municipal enforcement.
Okay.
Immediately.
And the last thing was just about the cost. I noticed other cities were charging around $17, and here it's going to be $35 for a spayed or neutered cat and $60 for an intact cat, which I think is a little steep, but I'm just wondering why so high for cats here as opposed to other cities and municipalities.
Okay, got that question. I'm just curious, I don't know that I've heard very much about cats being poisoned, or I've never received a call in my office. Just curious, where are those numbers coming from, or do we have those stats? Do you guys you would get calls if something happened or someone harmed an animal? I'm just curious what kind of numbers we're dealing with at the city right now.
Through the chair, we don't have any official numbers at this time. There has been chatter on Facebook with regards to allegations, however, nothing has been proven at this point. I understand the RCMP did open an investigation along with municipal enforcement, and nothing was found credible at that time. Allegations can always be posted on Facebook, however, there's no sustainable evidence for me to prosecute that in court.
Okay, and thank you, Officer Sum. I see Officer Luft has left the building. So, Derry, what will happen is they've captured your questions, and we'll be bringing them back, and Lynn can roll out the answers along with Officer Simon.
Great.
And
Thank you very
anybody
much.
else, I know Maury would like to contribute, but he's never come forward, actually, that I recall. Is there anyone here? Please come forward. Come on up. Welcome. He's a fisherman, that's right. Yeah. Welcome.
Hi, my name is Jen Fraser. I am a trainer here in Airdrie, but my concern is also with the cat traps. I don't own cats anymore. Both of them passed away, but I also would, if I got cats again, would have indoor cats. There are loose cats in my neighborhood of Kings Heights that have graciously used the side of my home as a giant litter box. It is a pain, but I'm not cruel. I put planter pots all along the side of my house with tomatoes, hoping that the cats would stay out of them. It seems to have deterred them away. But my concern is basically just anybody being able to trap the cats in the neighborhood. There's control missing. I wouldn't trust my neighbor. I mean, I love my neighbors, but at the same time, I wouldn't. I don't know what the answer is, but I think just allowing people to have cat traps it might take it to a whole new level. Again, I've also seen the allegations on Facebook, and I know people are just silly and like to cause trouble and all of that stuff as well. But I think that bylaw needs to be looked at some way else, and I'm not sure what that answer is. But I did read it, and I was incredibly concerned about that. Also, the price of licensing, like my indoor, if I had indoor cats, $35 for my indoor cats that, I have quite control on. Both my cats passed in April and May this year, but $35 is steep for an indoor cat. And to have 6 indoor cats, I think that's great for some people, not in my world. 7 or 8 litter boxes that I would not want to change. But at the same time, $35 for an indoor cat, I'm not really sure. I don't know about that. Maybe for outdoor cats, maybe a little bit less for indoor. But that's my one concern. Obviously, that was a big one that red flagged me for my cat neighbors that have outdoor cats. That, I love cats. I don't want them, pottying in my yard. But I also don't want to see just willy-nilly people trapping cats, and who knows what they did. Growing up, I had a neighbor poison my cat, and it was the hardest thing to witness. So to put someone else through what I witnessed as a teenager, I can't even begin to imagine. And someone took control into their own hands. I don't know what the answer is, but that's my first concern. The other one is taking 6 dogs to an off-leash park. I'm a trainer, and I'm a CPDT trainer. I wouldn't take 6 dogs to a dog park. And I don't even go anymore because the one dog that I do take that is very good, other people don't have control of their 2 or 3 dogs. And I've asked people kindly to get control of their dogs, and I was told some nice words to go away and to get myself a dog trainer. So I don't go anymore. And I work for my vet in the city, and we've dealt with a ton of dog bites this year from off-leash pack walk dogs who you can't have control of 4 to 6 dogs. Like, that's a lot of dogs to control. You can't control other people's dogs. So I think if you want to walk a pack of dogs of 4, maybe 6, that's great, but I'm looking at things from a behavioral standpoint, and I think 4 dogs is a good on-leash idea. Off-leash, any more than 4 dogs, you've got to be real good, because, you know, like I said, my Border Collie is amazing, and I won't even take him anymore because he gets harassed. He's fixed, he's registered, and just that one dog, I mean, I don't go anymore because there's no control, there's no rules, and everybody has an opinion. It's a heated, passionate industry, and I think 6, 8 dogs, absolutely. For behavior-wise, and that too, me seeing the medical side of bites, it's too much. So I don't know how else to answer that either, but that's my concern.
Jen, first of all, sorry for your loss. And I was going to ask you that question as a trainer, so I'm thrilled you answered it for us. Because I'm curious, well, I'm going to ask Councillor Coulson afterwards, but someone would drive to Calgary with 4 dogs and 20 minutes there, 20 minutes back. You could walk 3 dogs for 15 minutes, then the other 3. There's 9 dogs. I don't quite understand the logic behind driving to Calgary, so you can let a lot more of them loose. I saw a person there with 11 dogs. Now, I'm not an officer, but there's just absolutely no way. Those dogs are just running wild.
When you take, I used to be a dog walker when I was in Calgary about 6 years ago. I only did on-leash behavioral walks, so I was dealing with reactivity, fear, whatever it was, in a controlled environment. And I would take 2 dogs from the same home, or my Border Collie, because he's a neutral dog. And there were a lot of times that I was like, stop, my dog is reactive. And I could see it coming. I watched the body language. But behavioral is where I look at this. I understand the loss of revenue, and I get it. I was a dog walker, walking, you know, half hour, 45 minutes for $20. You try and do that and drive across the northeast of Calgary, you walk 5 dogs. It's not a profitable business. So when you take 15 dogs to an off-leash park, you make a ton of money for the company that you're working for. I've also seen what it looks like in the back of those vans with all dogs tied up on strips or like a bar, on leashes, in the back on martingale collars, and that's dangerous. The other side, of course, is collapsed trachea, medical issues, long-term medical issues. So yes, I understand that these companies are taking a hit because you can't take 6 or 12 dogs to a dog park. Be creative. There's other ways to do it. Hire another staff, do rotations of an hour of 4 to 6 dogs. Do an extra pack walk. There's always a way to change it around. So, you know, the other thing too, if you take a pack of 15, your morning is done. You've made your money, you've got the rest of the afternoon, you're free and clear. So there's more to the animal behavior side of things that people are forgetting when you take multiple dogs to the dog park. Because it's great. Sure, you get a dog, that's great, that's what you want to do, you want to go to the park. But there's a lot more to that story. So,
thank you, Jen. Thanks for sharing. Sorry. Much appreciate your expertise.
Your Worship, if I could ask a question?
Yes, go ahead.
So what do you think, like you're the only professional that I see right now in the room. If there is anybody else here, I apologize. I hope to hear from you. But what are you comfortable with as far as, I mean, I know you're not comfortable with off-leash parks, I get that, but they're here, they're going to stay, people use them.
I would say no more than 4.
Okay.
It would be, you can't control one, but it's a lot more controllable than 6, 12, 14 dogs. You know, in Calgary, there is a company that walks 15 dogs at a time. 15. That's a lot of dogs to try and control. So I would say, if I were a dog walker, and you know, if I were to go to the park, I would say 4 dogs off leash would be a lot more manageable than 6.
And in large packs where you have 3 walkers and 9 dogs?
No, that's too many dogs. You look at those pictures and you look at the behavior of those dogs being lined up 6 deep on each side. That's not a happy walk. 4 dogs, 6 max on a leash walk. Yeah, on a group walk.
If you had 2 trainers and 6 dogs
per person, yes, that could be manageable.
Or 3 dogs per person, but you have a large pack. Do you see a problem with packs?
Yes.
Okay.
I do.
And intact and non-spayed and non-neutered?
There's a huge issue with intact females, for sure. Most times, intact males are okay. It's the fixed dogs that have issues with intact dogs. But a couple of intact dogs together could cause a lot of trouble. There should be some sort of law. But breeders, have contracts where you don't get your male fixed until they're 12 months to 18 months. So then you're dealing with that. If life was perfect, no one would go to a dog park in my eyes until their dogs were fixed, gone through classes, socialization, and the people understood body language. And that would be about 18 months. But you would see a huge decline in dog parks.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Excellent. Thank you, Jen.
Okay, thank you.
Next up. Welcome.
I'll try and keep my comments brief, but I don't want to filibuster the whole room for 2 hours, but I do have an extensive number of questions to table on the dog bylaw, but it involves the whole bylaw. And Honorable Councillor Coulson said you're the only professional in the room. But remember, we're dealing with the animal bylaw, which defines lots of animals. And I'm the only master beekeeper in the city of 66,000 people. And I'm licensed with the provincial apiarius. So I defer to those comments, Professional Coulson, because I will be talking about the bee portion of the bylaw. Just want to start at the very top. I will be taking the cat bylaw, and since these proceedings are live streamed, I will be filing an official complaint right now with the International Fund for Animal Welfare. It's a federal and a provincial organization that council, by passing the cat trapping bylaw, is abusing animals. That's quite a charge. We've heard evidence. And it's important that council take this situation seriously. If you're going to trap animals, if you're going to kill them, if you're going to abuse them, and by the way, all our bylaw enforcement officers say in the cat bylaw, the trapping part, is you're closed. They only operate during Monday to Friday. They say that specifically in Schedule E to the regulations. That's not right. What are you going to do, ship the cage to Calgary? So if council is going to authorize this abusive animal law, and I see Councillor Belloc cringing, is it really abusive? You can have laws that are drafted that violate the charter, and this is very serious. There needs to be a lot of serious thinking right now.
Mr. Herdman, just direct your questions to the chair, and we'll do our best to answer them.
So if you're going to have a trap on a snow line in Kananaskis where the animal certainly freezes to death or boils to death,
Okay, so let's stay in Airdrie.
Okay.
So I want, because you've got a limited amount of time.
Right.
So you want to cover, there's a lot in this bylaw.
Okay.
So what areas do you want to hit so we
Okay,
can make sure to answer?
specifically the design.
So right now,
Sorry.
we have traps, right?
Right.
You don't want traps.
No, just.
That's written down. So what's the next piece?
The next piece would be if you're going to have a design of a trap, you've got to purchase them someplace. Somebody has to design that. And I'd like to see an agency that has authorized the city to purchase those traps. So what I'd like to see is a GPS tracking chip and a microwave monitoring device inside that trap so that it records the entry of that animal.
Okay, so we've got properly designed, and you'd like to see a microchip inside so we can locate the trap at all times, right?
And
okay.
record the entry and exit of the animal. I think it's incumbent on us to look at that section of the law. Moving on. Section 8.15 of the new law. I came to this council a number of months ago to deal with the city killing animals, whatever animals that are taken into possession by the city manager. The old law says we could kill and put down that animal in 3 days. Now we have the 10-day rule. And that means when this city gets rid of its animals, it's going to do it because it costs them money. I would like to see the law reworded so it says no kill policy. So that means when the city gets rid of its animals, it goes to a no kill agency, like the cats, the Meow Foundation. I think that's good for the city.
Okay, duly noted. Got it.
It's mission critical, and I think it sends good optics from the mayor's.
I'm just trying to keep you so that you get your time in.
Okay.
What other ones do you have? Because we got that one as well.
Okay, we're talking now. We're going to go to the very beginning of this law, how it's drafted. I will state this emphatically, that all administrative proceedings, this council is bound by the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, all sections. And I will state that all of those offenses for cats and dogs, honeybees, starting at $250, if you don't pay that fine, the provincial court puts you in jail for 3 days. And you may not think that happens, but it means you go to jail. And that means de facto law comes to play, and that means the citizen...
Sorry, just quickly, those were the maximum fines that you showed us earlier. Those are not the minimum fines. Just so we're clear, it's not $250 to start. I think it's $150, or am I wrong? $150 if I recall correctly. Sorry to interrupt, Mr. Herdman. Please continue.
All I'm trying to state here is that we are drafting and tabling a new bylaw from the very beginning. And then it's going to be chartered and filed with Her Majesty. And I'm stating right now that there's a charter challenge starting right now on many of the sections, and I'm going to go through them. And it's incumbent that this council do the thinking. First of all, the 10-day rule, killing the animals. Section 8.23 reads this: everyone is guilty of an offense. The criminal code does not even say that. Excuse me, there's provisos now in the criminal code that says if you don't blow, you are guilty of an offense. You are guilty of impaired driving. But those are very restricted, and Parliament authorizes those, and legislature authorizes those. This council, it has to do the thinking, and it's saying everybody is now guilty of an offense, and so we don't have any presumption of innocence.
Okay, so I'm going to be very direct. So I'm going to give you an extra 2 minutes to summate because you're over your 5. And
I didn't know, sir, that there was a 5-minute rule here.
Well, you've been to a lot of public hearings, sir. I'm sorry if I didn't clarify that at the beginning. We're always 5 minutes for everybody.
I have the whole list.
Unless I'm cueing you, then I understand. I'm taking your time away. So I'm going to give you 2 minutes. Please summate and get to the points you want to get questions answered because they're sitting right over there to do it for us.
Okay, all these are charter challenges, and I will table them and send a letter tonight to you.
Perfect, thank you.
And also the Judicature Act says I have to write those to the federal prosecutor and the provincial prosecutor and the judge, just to make it very clear, because this administrative procedure is now on notice. Section 9.2, recovery of enforcement costs and civil debt. That doesn't even exist in the criminal law or the provincial law. That's an abusive process. That this city can recover costs when I go to trial for anybody or myself. Section 8.1, This council is authorizing a peace officer to enter premises on a dog issue between the hours of 9 a.m. and 6 p.m. Monday to Friday. That should be on a warrant only. The criminal code authorizes entry to a dwelling house under specific reasons. This council cannot impeach the criminal code and say, oh, I can willy-nilly come trouncing into this people's property. You guys have to know you're giving a lot of rights and privileges to peace officers. Nobody maybe took a look at that. But that needs to be replaced with dwelling house, I believe, and a warrant. Section 7.2, going to the cat thing, says that the person that traps the cat has to notify the city. There's no, who's going to make sure that citizen obeys the law? And what happens to the animal? And also, just to close out section 6.20, somewhat of a charter challenge is I'm the only beekeeper in the city. And Lynn McKenzie says, I believe licensing all animals is best, and the Calgary being the best licensing in North America. Well, Mayor Nemsey has deferred licensing of bees to the Calgary Beekeeping Club. And there's 400 of us, and it works quite fine. And they don't prohibit bees, and if we have a problem, we look after it. They call the mayor's department, and beekeepers are very benevolent people. We don't want to cause problems. And the bees that were in my backyard, the city would come back after me for $250. I just relocated them. So, and also section 6.20 is going to prohibit pigeons. And pigeons have been around, sir, for 10,000 years. So I think that's a little much to ban somebody from having 10 pigeons and a pigeonry.
Okay, well, you've never lived beside them, I don't think, have you?
No.
Okay, well, I'd I won't comment any further than that, but I have all of your questions here. I'm not sure we're going to be able to give you the specific answers as it relates to the Canadian Criminal Code and things like that tonight, but all of your points are well taken.
Yep.
As it relates to your questions, I've captured some. I know Paul's written some down, and I'm sure that Lynn and Officer Sum have them as well, and hopefully they'll come back here very quickly. Thank you, sir. Appreciate the information.
And every beekeeper, sir, in the whole province has to take courses, is licensed.
Yeah, no, I understand. And you're not the only beekeeper in Airdrie, just so you know.
Yep.
There's others.
Thank you, Council.
Thank you, Mr. Herdman. Really appreciate you coming in.
Sorry for taking the time.
No, that's all right. Welcome.
Oh.
Hit that. Oh, I just turned mine off there. Don't even know how to work it myself.
Now it's on.
You're
Thank
good.
you. I'm Ron Roffel. I live in Silver Springs, and I have a concern about the trapping of cats, just like some of the other citizens here. So I would like to know whether or not Council would consider training the animal bylaws officers under Fish and Wildlife guidelines for removing animals such as skunks and badgers. I can understand that there is a cost involved, but the thing that I'm concerned with is if a citizen captures a badger, for instance, and gets injured, there might be a liability issue there. And also there might be a concern if a little kid sees it as a strange-looking cat and gets injured as well. So I was wondering whether or not the city or council would consider the possibility of training the animal bylaw officers to at least be able to handle those animals safely, rather than letting citizens do that.
Excellent, thank you.
It's Kevin Miles from Meadowbrook. I also have a concern about trapping the cats. I think this is something that the professionals should be doing. I'm certainly not a professional. My backyard is full of cats because I feed the birds. I probably got 5 or 6 of them in there every day. And the other thing they do is make my dogs bark. And every dog in the neighborhood's barking. And you got people yelling and calling bylaw about barking dogs. Well, we need to do something with these cats. I also have a question, though, about some other animals. Are there any bylaws regarding how many birds you can keep in your house? I know I've got a neighbor not far from me that's got about 400 birds in his house. He's got rodents and he's got snakes. So we're talking about the humane treatment of animals. Does this fall into this anywhere? Can we, and I'm also not aware of, are we allowed to have chickens in our backyard? That I'm not aware of. We are?
No, answer that question.
Okay.
Yeah, that's part of the long list that's coming forward.
Yeah, because that'll be another question.
So you've seen 400 birds in someone's home?
I've seen a neighbor of mine who's got more bird cages in his front window than you can shake a stick at. So I can imagine there's not 3. 400's an exaggeration, but there is quite a few. Chickens, how many chickens can you keep in your backyard would be a question. Because I know a friend of mine in Rocky View has chickens, and he's got quite a few, but he's also in the country.
Okay.
So there's just some questions I'd like answered. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. Do you want to ask a question? I've never been asked that question. I don't see why not. But there's a gentleman coming up first, and you're welcome to come up.
I'm Calvin Daling from Ravenswood. Just 2 questions. One on the trapping thing. I honestly have no idea if it's a danger or not, but are there other communities doing this that we haven't heard from? I'd love to hear that answer if that's common practice elsewhere.
Well, I think that was addressed actually in the beginning because they said that Calgary does an excellent job and they haven't had any issues that we're aware of. But please continue, Calvin. Sorry.
Okay, and then the other thing was just as far as the cost on the cats. I know that's been brought up before, but my concern isn't, I mean, the dollars is one thing, and certainly giving people value for the things that they're paying for, I think makes a lot of sense, but the other one is just as far as what we're expecting for people to actually sign up, and I think that's keyed this whole thing, is if people say, you know, that's just too much money to actually put out, we're not going to get people signing up, so it just doesn't, you know, it might be self-defeating by asking for that extra money, so.
And it's funny because, I won't tell you what community up north, but they have their compliance is around 20%. They're estimating it at. It's not a significant amount. That's why when she said 45 in Calgary, that's a pretty significant number. So be interested to hear more about that. Any other comments you'd like to make?
No, that's all. Thanks.
Oh, okay, great. Sorry, Sharon, I never had a request from media to enter a public discussion. It's good, right? Are you a resident? Well, then welcome.
Hi, I'm Cheryl Russell. I live in rural Airdrie. I was looking into the bylaw, and I didn't see anything in there about horses and donkeys, or specifically asses, as the bylaw calls them. And I was wondering if it's at all possible, because there's a large difference between the Airdrie city bylaw and bylaws for people that own 3 or more acres, because there are properties in Airdrie that do own several acres. Would it be possible, and this is probably a silly question, but to have a bylaw that's separate for rural property owners? Because as you know, you can have more dogs on a bigger acreage or a farm even. Would the same rules for this bylaw apply to rural property owners?
It's a great question, but I think at least post-annexation that all the rules pertaining to livestock and animals as it related to any previous Rocky View County residents would still be in play.
Okay.
So with this, whatever this becomes, if you were in the annexed lands, you wouldn't be part of this bylaw. You would be under the Rocky View County Animal Control Bylaw.
Okay.
Anybody, am I incorrect there? We're good? Okay.
Cool. That was all I needed to know. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Say something nice in the news for us. That'd be great. Anybody else who'd like to come forward, please do. Got lots of chair up there. You certain I'll ask once, twice, going a third time? Okay. We're going to close the, sorry, I apologize. Councillor Burley, go ahead.
I do have a question to staff before we close the hearing, Your Worship.
Absolutely.
With regards to the fees for the cat bylaw, was it just convenience the reason you went with 60 and 35 domestic dogs versus going with what the other communities seem to have a lower price for cats?
Through the chair, no, convenience didn't come into play. It was actually when we went out for the original public consult back in like 2015, what we heard from dog owners as well as cat owners that they wanted it to be fair. So that was why the choice to just go across the board. However, if council wishes to reduce the fees, we would do so.
Excellent. Can I close the public hearing portion?
Yeah.
Sorry. Is there anybody here that heard a question from somebody who asked a question that they would like to talk to them about that we have missed? Nope. Okay, well then I'm going to close the public hearing portion and thank everyone for your contributions to the conversation, and we're going to address these issues one by one. And Councillor Coulson, did you want to ask a question first, please?
Oh, I just wanted to address the pigeons, because that was, we know that there are an awful lot of people that keep pigeons within the city of Airdrie. So what will happen now that they are prohibited from being kept?
I'm not aware of too many that are being kept in the city.
I can give you a list of 3 in my neighborhood alone.
Of Airdrie. We would have to address it, and perhaps they'd be grandfathered in, similar to how it was with dogs.
And if they if they were a nuisance to their neighbors, they would be addressed accordingly. Even though they were grandfathered in, they would still be eligible to have.
We would have to look at that.
Okay.
Pigeons are a nuisance in pretty much every community, and that's why in most animal control bylaws they are prohibited animals to be kept.
I was glad to see that it was added, so thank you.
Sorry, just on further to that. So if I have pigeons now, then I'm going to keep my pigeons? Is that how? Because that's not what it says in the bylaw we're voting in on. It says they're gone. So I just want clarity there, please.
We would have to consult. I'm not even familiar of too many people keeping pigeons.
Well, no, I'm with Councillor Coulson. There definitely is.
No, I'm hearing
absolutely
clearly that there are, and we would have to give people time to, if they are keeping pigeons, to.
Yeah, it's a very expensive hobby.
I'm sure.
Very expensive. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, I'll stop talking. And do you want to start with the? I think the one that sort of stood out in my mind is a concern for unexperienced neighbors or what have you trapping animals, and could capture other animals inside the trap. Can you walk through the process? Where does this trap come from? Why do we have, so some of the questions that came. Sorry, everybody, I'm kind of pulling you all together, but that seemed to be one of the main concerns was people with inexperience trapping animals.
Through the chair, could we just take a few minutes just to discuss and then respond?
So we will take a 5-minute recess and let me know if you need a little more time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hope you had a good break. I believe we're going to have all the answers. They look very confident and calm over there. Yeah, they've gone from 2 to 3, so that's really good. The bench is growing. So I had a chance to confer with them. It seems that we've got most of all the answers, and if we haven't, we'll do our best to address everything here. So Lynn, whenever you're ready, or Officer Sum, whoever wants to go first, please do.
Good evening, Your Worship, members of council. So I guess we'll address the key issue that we've heard repeatedly tonight about trapping. As far as trapping goes, it is a humane practice, and it's actually widely practiced within a lot of surrounding municipalities. I've had the pleasure of going with Calgary Animal Services, and they have a very successful animal trapping program. The traps are humane. The way they're designed have very little to no damage to animals because of its design. They are designed for capturing animals without any injury to them. As far as people wanting to hurt cats, as far as trapping and whatnot, a lot of this is covered through our waiver system and having this discussion with an officer. So it's not just a nilly-willy, here's your trap and have a great day and go capture cats. That's not that whatsoever. With a trap being issued to a person along with a deposit, there is a long, extensive policy and procedure process that an officer will explain to the person, because ultimately they are liable for this animal in the cage. If there's any injury or damage to this animal, at the end of the day, since they are the ones laying the trap, they are liable for that, and they can be charged under the Animal Protection Act. All our officers here can lay charges for that. If it becomes a critical issue where it's animal neglect or cruelty, it can be referred to the RCMP to be laid as a criminal code charge.
Sorry, Officer,
Yes, sir.
Do I have to register a complaint first? Because you know how we have to justify a complaint. Do I have to do that before I get a cat trap? So I have to actually say, okay, I've got this animal, it's come on my property.
Yes.
So it's the same process that way. That's still stays
Yes,
the same.
Through the chair, it would be the same process. You would lodge a complaint with our office, and that would generate an ability for us to create a case file for your complaint, and then a trap would be issued to you.
So do you know how many cats
issues.
were trapped in Calgary last year, and how many were injured? Is it zero?
I do not have those stats in front of me at this time, so I can't speak to that.
Be interested to know, just kind of curious to know, if a population of 1.2 million, how many, because I'm curious to know how many people actually would trap an animal here as an issue. I don't know.
Through the chair, my understanding is that it is a practice that already is in the city, is just not regulated by the city. There are private individuals who do loan traps to people, from my understanding.
You can rent a trap,
Yes,
that's correct.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Continue, please.
Yeah,
Sorry about that.
My understanding is for those who are currently trapping, I've yet to hear of any complaints at this time of cruelty or neglect, and the vast majority of these cats are transported to, my understanding is the Cochrane Humane Society, or perhaps the Tails to Tell shelter.
And just to, on the vein of safety to the animal, how many animals have we euthanized in this past year, or the city manager, or how is that, please?
What I want to make clear is that the city does not euthanize any animals whatsoever. These are choices made by either owners of the animals themselves, or if we elect to transport any animals to the Calgary Humane Society for adoption, if the Calgary Humane Society feels that the animal is in a state of complete medical disrepair, they will elect to euthanize that animal humanely for the sake of that animal.
Thank you. Please continue.
I think we had a whole bunch of other questions here. So I'd like to address, there was a question with regards to in the event of wildlife being captured in traps. Unfortunately, due to the scope of our appointments through the Solicitor General, we do not have the ability to enforce the Wildlife Act. This is strictly for Alberta provincial peace officers. We would never have that ability to have that appointed under us, and we would not be allowed to take care of that. So regrettably, that does still fall under Fish and Wildlife. That is their mandate, and they are required to respond to those calls in a timely fashion. In addressing foster dogs, as far as within the bylaw or any dogs, any dog that enters the jurisdiction of Airdrie is required to have a license. We have had the opportunity to speak with foster groups in the past that they are able to purchase licenses for their foster parents here in Airdrie, and those foster licenses can be changed from time to time from names. So at least we have an ability to return foster dogs to their foster parents, or ability to get them back with their actual foster groups. So that would be my response to that. There have been concerns with regards to, again, animal cruelty. I would encourage people who do have concerns with animal cruelty, hoarding, issues of that nature, they are welcome to contact the Alberta SPCA, as Airdrie falls in their jurisdiction. We do have an ability to investigate with our scope of authority under the Animal Protection Act that goes already, as we sit today, for dogs and cats within the city. And I would encourage people who do have those concerns to raise those with the professionals, such as the Alberta SPCA, who can investigate these issues. In response to also with animals that are found through trapping or whatever the case may be, the Animal Protection Act clearly states that if an animal is captured or impounded by the city, if there is no owner or ability to identify an owner, the Animal Protection Act allows us after 5 days to transfer the animal to a Humane Society for adoption. if it is the owner is known, they have 10 days at that point to claim their animal. And at that point, if they choose not to, the animal can be taken to Humane Society for adoption. And I believe that may address all the concerns that were raised tonight, and I'm open to questions.
So there was the cat and dog, $250 that came up from somebody. So first offense is not $250. How much is it? Sorry, it was dog. I don't know if it was a dog at large or dog license. I can't remember exactly.
Through the chair, just to clarify, this is for a domestic animal running at large?
Yes, correct. Is that the lowest? Is that is 250 the maximum or the minimum?
250 is the specified. Through the chair, the specified penalty is $250. The minimum is $150.
150, okay. So peace officers entering private property without a warrant. Can anyone address that one?
Absolutely. So as it stands right now, if an officer is required to, say, capture a dog that's running at large on someone else's property, we are enacted under our current bylaw and have the authority to do so. As far as entering into a dwelling, a warrant, yes, may be required in certain situations. However, if a dog is currently at large and we are actively pursuing an animal that we have clearly seen enter into a house that may or may not belong to that house, we do have the authority under exigent circumstances to protect the people of that house and the dog itself. And a warrant would not be required in that circumstance due to the circumstances.
Okay, and where in the bylaw does the foster dog piece come in? So foster parents of dogs. I didn't see it in there as addressed.
So with respect to foster dogs, we have taken this as an internal policy where foster organizations can transfer names and breeds and whatnot to certain licenses. So let's say I were to run a foster organization with 10 dogs that I have licensed with the city of Airdrie. I have the ability to change those 10 licenses from George to Toby if I have a different dog. And that at least allows the ability to identify the dog that's currently within the city, even though they are a foster.
Okay, and I would like some consideration, considering that people actually take other people's animals into their home, feed them, take care of them, treat them as one, that there is no fee as it relates to that. I don't know how many foster parents, but I would think it's a fairly minimal amount of revenue we'd be foregoing. I mean, they're doing a tremendous service to the community, so I'd like that under consideration. The other one was the Monday to Friday piece. I believe there was a question there. What happens on weekends? Because I know you guys are active on weekends. Because I caught Maury at Tim Hortons, so I know exactly on Sunday.
Through the chair, I believe there may be some misconception.
And don't be concerned, he wasn't alone. There was 4 of his friends with him, so it was all good.
I believe there may be some misconception as to the hours of peace officers here. We do virtually work a quasi 24, or sorry, almost a virtual 365-day schedule, with the exception of I believe 4 stat holidays. Officers are on duty from 6:30 in the morning until 9 p.m. at night every day, with the exception of those 4 stat holidays. So we do not work a Monday to Friday schedule as much as I would like.
Perfect. And just around, I believe it was Jen's question, we have 3 dogs. I think there was a consent. She said 4 would be a reasonable number as well. So again, I wish there was some dog walking companies here to say something. I have not. I'm going to ask that of council. Has anybody even received a letter from a dog walking company about this? Okay, you have, Candace. So anybody else? I wish one of them was here so that they could. Oh, you are the cat next door. Sorry, I don't have my glasses on. I apologize. The only problem is the public hearing was closed a few minutes ago.
Getting it all right.
Sharon's just grimacing over there. So I'll tell you what. I'm going to reopen the hearing for just a few minutes for you to come forward and address quickly what some of your concerns are, what you like about it, please. If you could provide your name and where you live. Come on up. Yep. Sorry if you weren't coming up. Too bad. Get up here. You're going to talk. Okay, where do I go? Right there. Okay. Hit the button. So we also may have already addressed some of your concerns, but I don't know. So go ahead, please.
I believe so. The biggest thing is, and I may be repeating some things, roaming cats, knowing whether or not they're lost. Are they owned? Are they an indoor-outdoor cat? What do we do with them if they do come into our yard? What do we do?
Sir, you need to give your name and where you live, please.
My name is Melanie Lacroix, and I live in Airdrie, Alberta.
Oh, sorry. Continue, Melanie, please.
Okay. So yeah, the biggest thing is, so we do get quite a few calls of, we don't know if this cat is lost, if this cat is stolen, there's a deceased cat on the side of the road. So we have gone above and beyond. We do have microchip scanners now, so if we do find a deceased cat at the side of the road, we do want to...
So you're supportive of licensing then?
Yes and no. Licensing, yes, but I have lost a previous cat to having a collar on. So I don't know how the licensing is, if it's going to be a mandatory collar or a harness on an animal, or if it's just registering.
Just a tag. Same as the dog.
Okay.
Unless I'm mistaken, correct? Thank you.
Okay, so is there a fine if that animal, like we have catios at the front of the house, at the back of the house, 3 doors, those cats are not getting out. But not everyone is going to be doing that. So we do take our cats on leashes, so I could understand if we were taking the cat out that yes, the collar would have to be on there with the tag on there.
Okay, so dog walking in an off-leash park. Where are you there?
I am opposed to the off-leash park because I get numerous phone calls of my dog got bit by another owner's dog. We don't know if they're licensed. We don't know if they're up to date on shots. And you can't really enforce somebody paying for that vet bill or trying to track that person down. So our company ourselves does personal walking.
Okay, perfect. Anything else?
I think that's it for now. Cheryl, do you have anything?
Limits on cats. I heard that, Cheryl. Really quickly, sure. Thank you.
What's the button? This one? Yeah. Okay, so I'll do the name thing. So Cheryl Limberg with, I live in Airdrie, Alberta, also with a cat next door. I understand that there's talk of putting a limit on cats. Now, what about people that are taking care of them, that are inside? Is there going to be something grandfathered for people that have more than 3 or 6?
We're going to answer that question. That they're all jotting your question down.
Excellent.
Okay.
Good.
That everything?
It is, unless you have questions.
Oh, spaying and neutering. Is there, if people are choosing not to spay or neuter their animals and they are picked up outside, is there an additional fine for that?
Not now, no. There is not. They have a higher licensing fee.
Okay.
Yep.
So a difference between a person not choosing versus a breeder?
It doesn't matter, I don't think.
Okay.
It's just a non-neutered cat or dog.
Okay.
Yep.
So anything over 6 months requires a spay or neuter?
Yeah, sorry,
Okay.
I forgot the spade piece. Yeah. Councillor Hunter, you had a question?
I do. A couple things. So first, I've never heard of an animal called intact. Wasn't sure. That's kind of a new term. It was either spayed or neutered or whatever. I guess the challenge that I have right now is compliance, and so my preference would be to see us. So we didn't start out with our dog licensing fees way up here.
Sorry, Councillor, you're not questioning these two, correct?
No.
You're going right to staff?
Right.
Perfect. Okay, you ladies can sit down.
I'm going through the chair.
No, that's fine. I just want to make sure, because they may have been saying there to answer your question.
Nope.
Yeah, thank you. Public hearing is now closed permanently. Perfect. Thank you.
So again, for me to get a few people on board right now in these economic times, my preference would be to see us start at the $15 and maybe 20 if it's not spayed, neutered, whatever. But 35 to me, same as dogs. Again, I'm really hoping we're not going to do cat leash parks because that'll be out of control. But but I definitely think that the fee needs to be down here and get people to comply, and then maybe step it up as time goes on. So.
Has there been any consideration to lower, so if I have a cat indoors, and I know a lot of people that have indoor cats, to incentivize them to come in if they ever got out, like a minimal amount, a smaller licensing fee for indoor animals versus the outdoor animals, as they're not really creating a nuisance to anyone. They're not at their neighbors' yards, they're not walking the streets, they're not defecating anywhere, they're in their home. Just curious if that was a consideration.
Through the chair, no, it was not. We just believe that all cats and dogs should be licensed, and whether they're an indoor cat or not. Partly we have, unfortunately, in Alberta had some disasters, the fire and the flood, and it is, you never know when those disasters may occur, and it's a lot easier to reunite a pet with a owner if they are licensed, and an indoor cat or not, we would have needed the licensing to reunite. So
we have no ability to identify the ear chip and all that kind of stuff with the animals, correct?
No, we do. There wouldn't, if an animal has a tattoo, which sometimes can kind of rub off a little bit, or a chip, then they wouldn't, cat owners would not get a fine for that, and there would be breakaway collars. There's breakaway collars you can purchase to also put the license on.
Okay, thanks, Lynn. Councillor Coulson and Councillor Burley.
Thank you. Just having the ladies from the Cat Next Door come up, it brought up the question of, I think is where they were going with people who are kenneling cats and dogs in their homes as a side business. So I know that happens a lot through the city. 3 dogs, that's it. No kenneling within your home, just so that we're clear. Okay. Are residents within the city able to apply for a license to kennel within their home, or to have, let's say they have 3 dogs and they're going to kennel a 4th dog? No. Okay. The no-kill policies, that's already in effect, so I just wanted to address that, right? The 7:30 p.m. to 6:30 a.m. no trapping rule. Cats are nocturnal. It seems like that's when the majority of people are kicking their cats out, is at night, so they're not wandering their homes. So I'm just kind of wondering, to me, it would seem like that would be the most humane time to trap a cat, would be in the evening when there's no sun. -20. Oh, yeah. But that could be said if you set your trap and went to work as well during the day.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Through the chair, while we recognize that the nighttime may be an ideal time for trapping, there is no ability for officers to be on duty at that time to check those traps. And also we would not expect the public or persons who are taking these traps to be checking that trap over the overnight hours.
Okay. And what would you do if Fish and Wildlife refuses to come and release that badger or that skunk, and the individual calls you and says, I'm not dealing with it, keep my $100 and come get your trap?
Through the chair, with regrets to that, because it is considered an animal under the Wildlife Act, we have no authority to remove that animal
so
whatsoever.
You have a badger or a skunk on a boulevard, there's nothing saying that that person isn't going to pay their $100 deposit, and then they catch a skunk, they set it on the side of the road, and they say Fish and Wildlife won't come. You guys can come and get your trap or keep my $100. What do you do? What's the process?
Through the chair, if people elect to, say, take this trap and put it on the boulevard and say deal with it, they may face fines from Fish and Wildlife officers as well, very similar to the Animal Protection Act for causing an animal to be in distress.
So you would at least do drive-bys to make sure that that's not happening?
Through the chair, yes, this is part of our policy and procedure that officers will check traps that are out, and will be part of our routine patrol process to check traps for
Are those traps GPS trackable?
Through the chair, no, they are not at this point for GPS tracking. As far as you signing a piece of paper telling me where you live, that's probably as good as it's going to get.
So we can't tag them with anything ourselves to know that somebody isn't just going to dump it in the woods and let you keep their $100?
At that point, this with trapping, it is, yes, in a sense, a little bit on good faith. However, if a trap does go missing and we do find a trap that has not gone or a person has not returned a trap, there may be ability to open an Animal Protection Act investigation on that, should we find a cat left in a cage that we've marked.
So what if you don't find it? And there might be an accusation from a neighbor that they've done something nefarious with an animal in a trap. The trap goes missing. They're out $100. Is that it? Is there no enforcement after that to say you're responsible for bringing this cage back or letting us know what happens to it, aside from just giving your $100?
I would hope that when people are investing $100 onto a trap, that they would be a little bit more cognizant about that rather than losing their $100. And an alternative to that, if, in all fairness, if a trap does go missing and folks say, oh, my trap magically disappeared, there is an ability to escalate our charges to a criminal code matter. And at that point, the RCMP will investigate that.
Okay. And then the recording the cat issues was brought up. So they would say, I have a cat problem. You open a file. Then they could come in within 24 hours and grab a trap if one was available. Is that my understanding?
That's correct, through the chair.
So I just see a little bit of inconsistency there. If somebody phones you about their dog, the neighbor's dog barking, they have to record it to be able to prove that that dog's been barking. So is there any thought to somebody recording or snapping a picture of that cat that's constantly in their yard, or just to prove that it's not just somebody coming to trap some cats? Or do you see the discrepancy there, that dog owners have to prove without a shadow of a doubt that that dog is either not barking, or the neighbor has to prove that it is barking or that it is a problem?
Through the chair, there's a bit of there's two elements that you've identified here as far as barking and a cat's roaming. There's a cat at large, or an animal that is roaming freely, or an animal that is creating a noise or a nuisance. With respect to dogs barking, case law has already been set forth that's required to do it that way. Unfortunately, there's really no other way to do that as far as dog barking goes. As far as cats go, as we've seen other surrounding municipalities have dealt with, if cats are roaming at large, trapping is the most easiest way to identify who an owner is at that point and hold them responsible. Cats are a little bit more difficult to identify and a lot more harder to catch, and this is why trapping is the best way and the most humane way.
Was there any thought given to reducing the licensing fees for cats that are proven to be tattooed and microchipped?
Through the chair, yes.
Okay, but that's not presented here, so.
No.
But it is a possibility.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship. No questions, just a couple comments. Or one question. Could we not make the traps available only seasonally? That way you would avoid the -20 chance of weather and things like that.
Through the chair, yes. This is actually covered in our policy and procedures.
It is. I missed that then. I apologize for that then. And with regards to the foster animals, I agree with Your Worship there that I believe, I love the fact they're registered and licensed, but I think it should be waived, the fee. There should be a zero fee for that. And the last one, I wonder if, you said Calgary had a 45% buy-in on their cats? I wonder if it's accessible because of their fee structure, the 30 and 17 versus 60 and 35. So I would, with the new program and to get better buy-in in the community, I think 30 and 17 would be a better starting point. So that's it, Your Worship.
I would concur with that as well. Absolutely. The other thing that Calgary mentioned was people with a disability and having their dogs to get them around. They waive all fees as well. And is that a consideration? Because I didn't notice it specifically addressed in our bylaw.
Through the chair, we do waive the fees.
Oh, we do? Okay. Perfect. Thank you very much. Councillor Haig.
Thank you, Worship. So again, I concur with Councillor Burley and his worship, just in the fact that I think when you heard people say that they want the fee structure to be fair for cats and dogs, I think sometimes we take equal and equity into consideration, right? And so that's what they might mean. So I think you could probably get most people to agree if it's an indoor cat, then what would that look like? I guess what I'm kind of uncertain about in all this is I'm getting the sense that we're going to license cats, but we're still going to let them run at large.
That's there seems to be a feeling about that here, because that's so if and it once it's just because it's an indoor cat doesn't mean it needs to be indoors all the time. So if my cat, and I let my cat outside, I need to know where that cat is at all times, and it should be on my property at all times. And I think we've got something to talk about, like cat education, and I'm not sure that I think we need to cover something in that. So that just my comments.
Councillor Burley.
So when there's a neighbor's cat wandering through your yard, the only way to address it is to get a cage or get the trap.
Through the chair, that's correct.
So there's no call out. So if I let my cat out and he wanders down the street and comes back, it's not complaint driven. You'll come and pick up a cat.
With respect to that, through the chair, if a cat runs off your property, runs back home, yes, albeit the cat may be at large. However, there is a bit of a challenge for officers to identify who that cat truly belongs to. And with respect to that, unfortunately, if we can't identify who the owner is, we cannot hold them responsible for the cat being at large. It's no different than a dog.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Bellick, we haven't heard from you.
Well, thank you. The best for last, right? Maybe so. Thank you, Worship. Most of the points that I've heard are very valid, and the people from ME have addressed them. The only thing that is outstanding, I think, is the fees for cats. I think that $35 is a little bit much, and I think if we go by Alderman Hunter's request of starting low with the fee structure and elevating it when we get more involved, that'd be great. I'm having a little bit of trouble identifying or knowing how we come at 45% when there is of cat registries, when there is no real cat registry, I guess, of how many cats are in Calgary or how many cats are in Edmonton, for example, and how can they say 35% of all cats are registered? I'm just not getting how we can do that.
Through the chair. Oh, sorry. I'm obviously excited. I know that there are some stats out there that say there's 2.1 cats per every household, and I think 1.7 dogs. So my thought would be that Calgary has come up with their stat by pulling from what the general thought is per household, where they've come up with the 45%, and then the 90% for their dogs.
Okay, I can see that. Thank you.
So, Councillor, well, the three of us were 17 and 30. What did you say? 17 and 17 for that, which is quite a bit lower than what's being recommended. So, I'd like to. Are you comfortable with that, Councillor Hunter or Councillor Bellick? Does that work with you guys? And Councillor Coulson, please.
Yeah, my preference would be start at 15.
Okay, it's not unreasonable. Councillor Coulson.
I'd be fine with the 15 as well, but I would like to see a $10 rate for cats that are microchipped and tattooed. Give those owners, because those owners that are microchipping and tattooing their cats are probably not letting them run at large. They're more than likely keeping them indoors. They're being responsible cat owners. I don't think that those owners should be penalized for going that extra mile. But so.
Okay. Councillor Hunter, sir.
Yeah, just through the chair, I guess, when it's time to pay, everybody's cat's an indoor cat. That's what I see. So, at the end of the day, leave it fair, and so the responsible pet owners are going to be responsible regardless of the fee structure. The irresponsible ones, a fee, a chip, that's not going to change their behavior. What's going to change their behavior is these guys in uniforms catching them in the act. So, I support leaving it where it is.
Okay. Well, and at the best, it's really unfortunate we've spent 3 hours talking about the irresponsible pet owners, really, right?
That's why
I mean, I know where my dog is all the time. It's well, sorry, the ME officers know. I don't always know because she can jump the fence and pick locks, and very strange dog. Only been arrested 3 or 4 times, I think. I'm not sure what the funny story. So see the tall guy over there, he phoned me, he said, do you know somebody named Maggie? And I said, well, I know Maggie Armstrong. no, somebody else. And then I look outside, and my dog is in a seatbelt in the back seat of his police car. So I found out who Maggie was very quickly. But for the most part, I know where my animal is. But we're instituting these rules and regulations and all this kerfuffle because people are not being responsible with their pets. And that's really, really unfortunate, first and foremost in my mind. Is this a perfect answer to this process? I don't think so. What I hope to see is an ever-evolving, so if this does get passed this evening, that we look at this, we capture all the data, we know how many traps are going out, we keep track of if there is any injuries, and we hope that there is none, that the process is being followed, and that we get a report back once it's instituted within a very short period of time. I'm hoping with 3 to 6 month window to say this works or this doesn't work. I really hope that that's the key message. And for me, it's always about education, so I like that as the takeaway. People are going to know what the heck they're going to have to expect. I'm fine with $15 and $30. I think that's reasonable. Well, I'm fine with 15. We have 315. Does anybody else want it? There's 415. So your 17 has been overruled without even taking a vote.
I'll see it too and raise it 5.
We're going to. We want to get to the end of this conversation. If there are any other changes, please bring them forward, and then we'll start with the motion, please. Councillor Coulson.
I would like to talk about the limit of 6 cats and the limit of 3 dogs. I think. Okay. To me, that's not. There's no rationale behind it. We know there's no rationale. It just seems like an easy number that we pick. If a person cannot own 6 dogs, their neighbor should not be able to own 6 cats. There's plenty of people that keep their dogs inside. They have pee pads. They don't go in their backyards. So I want to see some equality there. So either we remove the limit, similar to what Calgary has, or we do 4 and 4 and meet it somewhere in the middle for community standards across the board and our comparable communities.
What about 6 and 6?
Oh, I just think about how big my dog is and having 6 mastiffs, and who would need that?
Well, I could ride your dogs in the parade next year because I've mean your dog. He's a big dog. Okay, sorry, Councillor Hunter was first.
Yeah, so for ourselves and for the members of the public as well, and the 1 or 2 that might be watching on TV, although this might get enacted, we count on staff to come back to us constantly to tell us it is working, not working. We have the ability, and any of us hearing from the community can come back to council and ask for amendments to change it, whether it be numbers, whether it be, all the different things that are discussed. We have the ability to amend these at any given time, and so I just encourage everybody that showed up tonight that if it does pass, to keep an eye on it and tell us the things that are working and the things that aren't working, whether it be bees and 5 or 6 beekeepers in town, or the cats or the dogs, or we've even got a couple of snakes I hear. So again, we can amend it at any given time. I want to myself thank staff for all the hard work. It's been a long time putting it together, and you've still had to do your jobs in dealing with vicious dogs and the missing cats in spite of that. So I thank you very much for all your efforts.
Councillor Burley.
The current bylaw allows only 3 dogs now, doesn't it? And how long has that been in effect?
Through the chair, 15 years.
15 years, okay then.
Sorry, did you say criminal or animal?
He said all.
Okay. Sorry, this half of the room is trying to figure out what you just said, so that's... Okay, fair enough. Okay, so you've captured the dollars and cents of the change, right?
Through the chair, so it was 30 and 15, and then I just wanted to clarify about the foster dog. Are we going to go with no fee? Is that the direction, or?
That's my direction,
okay.
And Councillor Burley's.
That would be dog and cat.
Correct.
Dog and cat, yeah. No fees for foster parents. No fees. Not bees. F-E-E-S, not bees. Okay, so is everybody okay with that? Okay, so Councillor Coulson had a question around 6 and 6, 3 and 6. What's everybody's feeling here? We need to get this. I think that's the last question, I think, as it relates to this. Go ahead, Councillor Bellick, and then Councillor Hunter.
Thank you. Through the chair, we heard from a couple of professionals here that say 4 is the most of a limit for dogs, so I'd be comfortable at the 4 and 4 with their input.
Okay, and just so I'm clear, and I'm sorry if we rehash this, if I have 8 dogs and 9 cats right now, am I grandfathered?
Through the chair, not the dogs, because the dogs have been in effect.
No worry about, sorry, the cats.
Cats.
So I am
Correct.
grandfathered. Mm-hmm. Just relates to everything after the day. Okay, correct. Perfect. Councillor Hunter.
So I guess my question would be to staff is that if it's 3 dogs now and never had one on cats, what are the implications of, so have we had enough evidence with you guys' experience to say that we should limit it or leave it at 3? I mean, if 3 is working, seems to be fine. If we haven't had a huge cry from the public to increase it or decrease it and it's working, then I would, I don't see the value of changing it.
Through the chair, 3 does seem to be working. We don't get a lot of complaints about the dogs.
Okay. So I say to me it's 3 and 3 and
sorry, we want to make sure to make all of our conversations public. So Councillor Coulson, Councillor Burley, we were talking about 3 and 3 now. Where do you guys sit? Or if you want more consideration, we can remove that line in the bylaw, correct, Sharon? And bring it back in at a future meeting if we need a little more time to debate it, or I hope we don't, but.
Rather than removing it, I would suggest you leave it as it reads today, and then if you wish to amend it
just
at a
to do an
date,
amendment? Yeah, fair enough. Okay, fair enough. So where do you two sit? Sorry, everything's good?
I'm 6 and 3. I'm fine with the way staff presented it.
Okay. Yeah, Councillor Bellick.
I go for the 3 and 3.
Okay, 3 and 3. Councillor Coulson.
That's my motion, Your Worship.
Did you make a motion?
Not yet.
Okay.
But I get to do first reading.
You do, but are you going to include all of the amendments, or are you going to allow staff to do that? Do you recall all of them?
Okay. Yeah, and then maybe it'd probably be best if we
as
voted
amended?
Separately.
I would think. Well, I don't know if we can. I think we have to run it all at once. Correct, Sharon? It'd be much easier.
Your Worship, my preference would be, if you're prepared to move forward on the bylaw, go ahead, give the bylaw the first reading, and then you can try your various amendments and see which ones pass and which ones don't pass, and then you could carry on with second permission and third.
I knew you were going to say that, and I wish you didn't, but
all
okay.
Right. So, Your Worship, could I move first reading, please, of bylaw B?
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to it.
2016.
Yeah. All those in favor? Yep, it's unanimous. Okay. So, just a second. Let me get my safety glasses on so that I can see my sheet. There it is. So, just a second, because Councillor Bellick has second reading. Okay, but is he going to make the amendment, or you want to make the amendment? Councillor Burley, you want to make the amendment?
I was going to make an amendment.
Okay, well, you go ahead.
Okay. To amend bylaw B33 2016 to reduce the fee for foster dogs and cats to 0, and to change the fee for cats to 30 and 15. And that's all the amendments I'm making.
Perfect. Okay, all those in favor? That's unanimous. Councillor Coulson.
If I could make the motion, Your Worship, to amend bylaw B33 2016 to limit the amount of dogs per owner to 4 and the amount of cats per owner to 4. From 6 and 3.
So my only comment to the motion is, I don't have the understanding of...
Per household, not per owner.
Yeah, nope, that could be interesting. But I don't have the understanding of the issue to really make a good decision. One way or the other, to be honest with you, even with the 6 and 3, I'm just not getting where the numbers come from. I looked at Calgary's, they have an unlimited number for both cats and dogs. It's up to the owners. And you guys said that they have an excellent program, right? So why wouldn't we just mirror what they're doing? Do I want to see, I mean, I can't imagine having that many animals in my home. But when I door knocked 6 years ago, I knocked on houses with 12, 14, 15 dogs. Easy.
Your Worship.
Easy dogs.
I would have been in favor of having the no limit similar to Calgary, but I did not feel that that would go over, which is why I thought, okay, let's meet them halfway, and if we have to look at it down the road and take the limits off, we could do that at a later date. But I would willingly vote on that if somebody else wanted to put that forward.
Okay, there's no more conversation to the motion. Sorry, Councillor Haig.
Sorry, I will vote against that, Your Worship, and the reason being that we have a 3-dog limit seems to be working well, and I think that's what we need to stick with.
Okay. I'm going to be voting against it just because, and no other comments. So all those in favor? All those opposed? Motion's not carried. So is there any other amendments to the original bylaw? Councillor Hunter.
Yes, I will make the amendment that we leave it at 3.
Sorry, there's no amendment. So what we would do now?
For what you asked for, though, right, was how many originally?
No, it's 3 and 6.
3 and 6.
Right.
Yep. The three's always been there. The 6
So
is
the
a
amendment
number.
would be 3 and 3, correct?
Which
so there would be an amendment.
So you're reducing the amount of cats to 3.
3 and 3.
3 and 3.
Okay, geez, I went right over. Sorry. All right, we're going 3 and 3. All those in favor? All those opposed? 2 opposed, myself and Councillor Burry. The motion's carried for 3 and 3. Okay. Any other further amendments to what's being presented? Okay, there being none, Councillor Bellick, please.
Thank you. Second reading of bylaw number B33, 2016 with amendments as voted on.
Okay, all those in favor? It's unanimous. Councillor Haig, please.
Request permission for third reading, Your Worship.
Sorry, Deputy Mayor Haig. Sorry, my apologies. All those in favor? All those opposed? 1 opposed. Motion is, the bylaw then moves to the next meeting in September for ratification. Thank you very much. You guys need to get back on the road. There's a lot of stuff happening right now. I won't say where you should go, Maury. Just, I'll keep that to myself. The other thing I would like to have some consideration on is around the new fees, if there was any appetite from council to capture any of those dollars to go toward what it's intended for. Is there any appetite? Well, we're capturing new fees for cats, but we should, in my mind, based on the bylaws I reviewed from 6 or 8 municipalities this weekend, half of them had a portion of the funds collected for licensing and the funds collected in fees and in fines went back to, dog bags, dispensaries, potentially fixing a gate, things of that nature. Anyway, just a thought, because it does go back into general revenue. Councillor Hunter, you had your light on first, yes. And then Deputy Mayor Haig.
So through the chair, with CAT being new, would not the funds go towards purchasing traps and those types of things? Am I missing something?
Through the chair, it goes into the general revenue.
Okay.
And Deputy Mayor, Councillor Hunter.
So again, then my thought would be that let's capture the costs of, in the fee to pay for the traps.
Deputy Mayor Haig.
Thank you, Worship. I don't think any of our fees that we collect are directed anywhere. They all go into general revenue. Yep. So I think if we start doing this with one bylaw, we're going to start to have to look at it for other things, like for instance traffic tickets and so on. So I would be in favor of just letting it stay at general revenue.
Thank you. Paul.
Through your worship, I probably just going to say the same as Councillor or Deputy Mayor Haig. And council does have the opportunity each year as we go through the budget process to know the requests on the expense side as well in municipal enforcement. and also see the revenues. And it has been generally a practice. Doesn't mean it has to stay that way, but those are just identified for you and not specifically targeted.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Thank you for listening to my and considering. We're moving to Councillor Burley, please, 9.1A.
Is there any presentation on this, or just?
I don't believe that there is. We're just moving on instructing staff. Am I correct? Sorry. Just on the education piece.
Through the chair, no, there's no presentation.
Perfect.
Then we'll make that motion. Go ahead.
I'll make a motion that council directs staff to undertake an education campaign with regards to cats, with the enforcement of the sections dealing with cats beginning in January 2017.
Excellent. All those in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Much appreciated. Thank you to the audience who've stuck through this. I really appreciate your participation. Number 10, financial position. There are no items. 11, business arising. This is one I'm looking forward to hearing. Deputy Mayor Haig, please.
Thank you, Worship. So I'd like to Kim Harris to come forward and speak to us on, I guess, Archie and sort of other people who've been involved with this. Something obviously, yeah, near and dear to my heart as well, too.
Good evening, Your Worship and members of Council. We're here tonight to provide Council with information on a process for recognizing Airdrie's founding fathers within one location as per Council's request on February 4th, 2016, when Council directed staff to look into the feasibility of recognizing some of our recently passed founding fathers in memoriam. Administration reviewed the city's existing recognition policies to determine whether these policies might be directly related to honoring founding fathers. And just for clarity, founding fathers will be referred to as Airdrie founders throughout this report. So we did find 3 related existing policies. 1 is the Parks Memorial Policy, 2, Recreation Facility Naming Policy, and the number 3, Street Naming Policy. Staff researched several different communities that have policies on recognizing individuals in memoriam. These communities include Calgary, Edmonton, Ottawa, Red Deer, and
Excuse me,
St.
Kim.
Albert.
Sorry to interrupt you. Can we close that door and open the other door? I can hear them very loudly and clearly in here, if you don't mind. And maybe someone just ask them to take the conversation just a little ways away from the door. Sorry, Kim.
Yeah, no worries. So after researching
You can open the other door.
these benchmark communities, the most common means of recognizing an individual is a tree or bench memorial with a plaque attached. Many of these communities have a central garden or park to recognize significant community individuals in memoriam. As we went through all the several different ways in recognizing Airdrie founders, staff found that our existing Parks Memorial Policy is the most closely related to Council's request. It is staff's recommendation that we use the Park Memorial Policy and amend it to incorporate Council's wishes. So we'll have Archie now go through the purpose for amending the Parks Memorial Policy.
Good evening, Your Worship and Council. So the how and the where. And so obviously the purpose for amending the Parks Memorial Policy would be to recognize in memoriam those individuals that have, through their exemplary action, demonstrated an extraordinary commitment to making our city a better place to live by increasing the quality of life for Airdrie citizens in general. So with a tree, plaque, and or a bench, or any combination thereof, the suggestion is that we would create an arboretum. For those of you who don't know, an arboretum is a diverse collection of trees, both coniferous and deciduous. And so when considering where you would put an arboretum, especially for this particular purpose, you would want it to be in an area that has fairly heavy foot traffic, so in kind of a downtown or related area. Room to expand, ability to plant a variety of trees. A good arboretum has a very, very diverse plant material base. Improves the area aesthetically, and actually would create an informal gathering place as well in a park. The two parks that are in downtown area in Airdrie would be, that I would suggest, would be Nose Creek Park or Fletcher Park. There's an area on the north side of of Nose Creek Park rather, and an area on the south or central part of Fletcher Park that would suffice as well. Associated costs, well, we have associated costs for trees and plaques that are in the existing policy that we have, and I think for council actually because there would be no particular maintenance period that would be attached to these, then the prices would be somewhat less than what they are in the Park Memorial Policy, but gives you a good idea of what it would cost. So the process would look like there would be an application or an application or a request from council would be submitted to Parks, and Parks would bring the nominations back forward to council on a regular basis, annual or as required. Council would make the decision to recognize an individual based on the selection criteria, and then Parks would be informed of that resolution, and then Parks would plant the tree or tree in the bench or the tree in the plaque, whatever is required in that particular case. Kim?
Great. So we're describing an Airdrie founder, and they would be recognized as is a civic honor created to recognize an Airdrie founder in memoriam that has met the contributions stated above in the section entitled Purpose for Amending the Parks Memorial Policy. This contribution may include inspiring charitable work within the community, community building, being a leader in the community that has contributed to leaving a lasting legacy in Airdrie, or serving on a board or council in the community for an extended period of time. And that period of time that we've indicated in here is no less than 15 years to be recognized as an Airdrie founder. To be nominated, you can be nominated by an individual, a group, or by council. The selection committee would be council after a recipient is nominated, and they would have the final say as to who is recognized in this way. And the following criteria must be met. So all awards are in memoriam. They must have lived and volunteered within Airdrie and the annexed area boundaries, and this stays consistent with our other policies that we have for recognizing other people. The founder must have volunteered and contributed significantly to the Airdrie community in the following ways: through their exemplary action, and have demonstrated an extraordinary commitment to making our city a better place in which to live and enhancing the quality of life for Airdrie citizens. This may include inspiring charitable work within the community, community building, being a leader in the community that has contributed to leaving a lasting legacy in Airdrie, serving on a board or council in the community for an extended period of time, and contributed as a volunteer as stated above for no less than 15 years. And just to note, the recognition process is not intended to be a competition. Anyone who meets the criteria can be recognized and confirmed by council to be a recipient of council's Airdrie Founders Recognition Program. This Airdrie Founder report aligns with the council's approved cultural policy as well as with Airdrie 1. I'll turn it over to Archie to speak to the alternatives and implications.
Kim, before you do, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
So it wasn't too long ago we recognized Mr. Hamilton for Hamilton Boulevard, and he was not deceased. And I'm just wondering, because you said memorandum, so if there's somebody in the community that, well, and you said council could nominate, and then council make a decision on it, that's kind of a, I don't know how that would work, to be honest with you. It might be a bit of a conflict, but I'm trying to understand, it would be really nice to present an honor to somebody who hasn't passed on, that has provided that kind of leadership in the community. And I'm just wondering if there's been any consideration that does a person have to be passed on to receive that kind of recognition, or like we did with Mr. Hamilton, provide that great thing for him before he passed on?
I think there's a couple of answers to that one.
Okay.
And Archie can jump in when he needs to. Number one, I think the motion from council was in memoriam, so we were trying to address that. Number two, I think that any one of our other policies, such as the street naming policy or the recreation facility naming policy, can be whether it's in memoriam or not. And then we also have the Volunteer of the Year Award recognitions that we could recognize people who are still living.
Thanks for the clarification, Kim. Much appreciated. Are you okay for Archie's closing comments before you ask a question? Perfect. Go ahead, Archie.
Okay, so we've presented three options to your worship and council this evening. The staff have recommended option number one, and option number one would include an amendment to the existing park memorial policy, an amendment in addition to the current park memorial policy. In section 3, it would be in addition, item 16, and would read as follows, I believe. City Council may arrange for an Airdrie Founders memorial tree, plaque, and/or bench to be installed at their discretion and approval. And that would be added to the current Parks Memorial Policy. And recommendation is that council endorse option one, setting aside a fund through the budget process to recognize Airdrie Founders in a central location of council's choice, either Nose Creek or Fletcher Park, or I suppose it could be both, if that is council's wish. And to amend the existing park memorial policy as stated to include a revised criteria, provide a tree, plaque, and or bench through council budget to support and recognize the Airdrie Founders. That concludes our presentation. Are there any questions?
Thank you both. I believe there was a question from Councillor Coulson and then Councillor Hunter.
So we know that trees don't often do well in Airdrie. So you plant a tree, you plant 5 trees that year, and they kind of struggle, and 2 years later they're not sustainable. So would this have better watering, better upkeep than some of our trees that are planted around the parks and boulevards now?
All of our trees receive exemplary maintenance.
Even when they're dead. I see them out there watering those dead trees, so that's great.
Well, too. You know, we can always hope that they'll come back to life. I would only say that these trees, especially being trees in memoriam, they would certainly receive the best care possible, and if indeed one of those trees met their demise, it would be replaced immediately.
Okay, so then you mentioned like a tree plaque. Is that when it gets big enough you would put the plaque in the tree? No.
No, actually the plaque goes on a stainless steel pedestal, and it's a bronze plaque that's mounted onto a stainless steel pedestal, so it will never rust, ever. And it's installed when the tree's planted at the base of the tree.
Okay.
Or we have the ability to be able to put one of those plaques at an existing tree if there's a particular tree that you know, was a special tree for somebody, and that's where they wanted their plaque to be, well, then we could put a plaque beside an existing tree.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Hunter.
Through the chair. So first, thanks for the report. I guess I'm very disappointed in that maybe we gave you poor direction. It would seem to me, Murray Buchanan, Rob Van Biezen, to me, we have a living member on our municipal planning that's been on, I believe, for 30 or 31 years, and that would be awesome if we put a bench up and some trees and stuff like that. But to me, there are some people in our community that a bench, even if we did all the trees, all the benches, and a bunch of plaques, would not even speak to the contribution, Murray Buchanan being one, Rob Van Biezen, and I'm sure there's others. So my expectation would be that you know, we do something significantly more than that. Not. I mean, trees have value and benches have value, but benches get carved on, and trees, as Councillor Colson alluded to, can do well or not well depending on weather and pests and things like that. So I really wanted to see something that would really, you know, speak to. I mean, Murray, 20 how many years on council, and hockey, and Rob Van Biezen on the boards, and all those things. To me, is just. We have another one that's alive now, Dan O'Neill, who's been a huge founding father in the community. So again, I mean, thank you for that. And I don't know if we didn't give you good direction, but to me, trees and benches just aren't cutting it for me. And certainly, I think somebody wanted to name a dog leash park after Murray, and that just to me doesn't cut it. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm a little confused, Councillor Hunter, because we're not eliminating, like, the recreation policy, naming of facilities and all that. That's still available to us. That's I think that's where we're going. I'm going to let Councillor Hegg speak to his motion, but that's not off the table. I mean, we all are very aware of, and it's not just Mr. Van Biezen and Mr. Buchanan. I can name a number of people who passed in the last 10 years who had a huge impact on this community. But anyway, yeah, I don't think we're not negating anybody. But Deputy Mayor Hegg, please.
Sir Risher, I'd like maybe to close, and then if there's no other comments.
Sorry, Councillor Colson.
I just want to know why it's coming directly to council and not being routed through CSAB.
It's a council motion. That's why we made the request.
Oh, okay. But we could put in here that it will go through CSAB, like the nominations would go through CSAB, and then council would make the ultimate decision, like how it does now.
You guys can change it however you want.
I just thought there's a lot more CSAB members. It's a little more diverse, different connections in the community than maybe we have sitting up here. I just would like to see that. I think that those eyes should maybe be involved as well, but.
Well, I'm always under the assumption that we utilize them for that expertise, so I'm fine with that.
But as it sits now, it wouldn't be, correct? It would just come straight to council? Right now. Yes. Okay, so Deputy Mayor Hegg.
So maybe we would want to amend that, because I agree as well too. That's the way the rest of our
anything recreation.
Exactly, all of our policies that have been mentioned in here goes through that procedure and that process. So I think that's probably we can amend. So I will make that amendment wherever that needs to be done when I finish. Okay. Thank you. So the genesis for this idea really came from, I guess, for me, from my daughter, who said, who was a big fan of Rob Van Biezen, and said, Dad, we need to do something to recognize him, and I think planting a tree would be a great idea. And whether or not a tree, I think, to me, symbolizes, if you're a founder, what you do is you plant seeds. And those seeds grow into something. And that's what those founders that we're thinking about recognizing. Of course, we have to have people's names come forward to be part of this project. And I think that's something that would speak to exactly what they've tried to do for our community. So I think the symbolism is very high. And it's something that I'm proud to see that our staff has put together, considering something like that. So Again, whatever we might do for anybody else, as was mentioned, we did have Mr. Hamilton recognized with Hamilton Boulevard, and who knows how many other places for him himself, his name and the family name may go, because he's definitely a founding family for our community as well too. But that doesn't stop or negate, as we did with the Rob Ebbison Arena, having something named after other individuals or schools, Ralph McCall, as part of, well, that's not our purview, but that's certainly what Rockview School Division chose to do, to recognize his contributions to this, to our community. But he also had a tremendous civic legacy as well too. So he's someone we might consider. And I do appreciate the word founders, because there's no gender attached to that. There's a lot of people who've done a lot, and then I guess we'll find out what happens with that and how big our forest becomes. So it's my honor to be able to move this motion as amended.
Excellent. Thank you, Kelly. Sorry, Deputy Mayor Haig. Just a quick question on the records management. My wife and I were back east, and we grew up together, went to the same grade school, and the one thing we remembered most, that ticked us off the most, was a young girl drowned in my wife's grade 7 class, and we went right to her tree in front of the school, and the plaque was ripped off. We ended up phoning Halton Education, and they had no record of her or anything. So I just want to make sure that from 25 years from now, or in our case 40 years later, that those plaques are still there, they're still buffed, and people know that, you know, if something happened or were to happen, that person would continue to be recognized.
Your Worship, I can say that with our new asset management system that's just being put in place right now, we will be able to track all of those, and we'll have digital pictures of each one of those plaques, and it will all be a matter of record. If anything happens and something is vandalized or something is stolen, we'll have record of it and we'll replace it as soon as possible.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Well said, Deputy Mayor Haig. All those in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you very much. Thank you, Archie. Thank you, Kim. Sorry for the wait. We have a couple of pieces of correspondence. We have 13.1, the proclamation for muscular dystrophy, and I'll let Sharon deal with 13.2, please.
Your Worship, members of Council, you have a number of pieces of correspondence this evening. The first, as Mayor Brown mentioned, is a request to proclaim September 2016 as Muscular Dystrophy Awareness Month here in Airdrie. The second piece is from a resident with respect to request waiver in their tax penalties on their property. And then the last piece is from the regional municipality of Wood Buffalo, just from the regional fire chief expressing his appreciation and thanks for the efforts to assist with their fighting of the wildfires this past May.
Sharon, sorry, so let's deal with 13.1 first. I'm certain Councillor Coulson is going to make that motion.
Yep, if we could move that September is proclaimed Muscular Dystrophy Awareness Month in Airdrie.
Sorry, is there color associated with this? We can light up the city? No?
There's been no specific color requested at this time. Okay,
thank you very much. All those in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you. We're not quite certain what to do with Deputy Mayor Haig's motion on this tax arrears and the penalties. What are your recommendations, Sharon?
If I may, Your Worship, Council typically in the past has not provided a waiver of penalties, and so Council could either choose to proceed with granting the waiver or denying the request.
Okay, I apologize because I haven't seen the correspondence related to this, so I couldn't make a decision on this without having seen the detail. Councillor Burley, please.
I'd just like a clarification from staff, if I could get it, Your Worship.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tax notices are mailed out to the owner, correct? Not to the individual residence itself. Is that correct?
Thanks, Lucy.
Yes, that's correct, to the chair.
So if the owner listed that residence, in this case, as their home, it would have went there. But that would be the owner's personal request to have that then, am I correct?
I guess through the chair, there's also a variety of ways to receive your tax notice. We now have My Airdrie, where
residents can have their online accounts and receive their tax notices. We try to put it out there in a number of ways. We do through the year also get numerous requests for from our tax customers to resend bills, and we'll do that as well. But there is a address on the tax customer information of where the bill is mailed out to, and it is mailed to the owners.
Okay. Sorry, Sharon, did you want to comment? Or are you good? Thank you. Councillor Hunter.
Through the chair, in reading the letter, the individual owns multiple properties, and I find it hard to believe that he missed one that he should have paid his taxes. That's a little bit far-fetched, and so waiving that, because I own multiple properties, and one of them slipped by me that I didn't know my taxes were due in the arrears, I find that hard to believe. So
Perfect. Okay. I will just be voting against it because I did not read the correspondence. So, but Deputy Mayor Hagan.
So then a motion to file, I would guess.
Perfect. All those in favor?
No, sorry, can't.
Sorry.
I'm getting no.
Your Worship, I either need a motion to grant the request or to deny the request.
I think deny the request.
Deny the request.
Okay. All those in favor? And just one opposed, myself. Motion's carried. Thank you. And Chief, congratulations. Please extend on behalf of council. We all know you do great work, but when you're appreciated by their municipalities, it's always awesome to see. So sincere thanks for all your efforts and the team's efforts. I know it was an amazing experience for our guys being up there, and I've heard lots of stories, lots of positive stories, and not hopping without all your work. So thanks a lot, Chief. And we're moving on to motion to file. Councillor Hunter, please.
Motion to file a correspondence from Chief Darby. Had to use that name. He should be like that other guy that's got the movie on the airplane, but, you know, just saying. Motion to file.
Yeah, Darby's easier to say than Weinberger. All those in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you very much. Board reports. We're going to go left to right just because you should wave at Councillor Chapman because I know he's watching. He told me he'd be watching tonight. He's fishing with his wife in Campbell River. So we extend a hello to him. Councillor Bellick.
Nothing from you, sir.
Thank you. Councillor Hunter.
No, sir.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Haig.
Thank you, Worship. Just had privilege of attending fundraiser for the food bank, Anna Spa and Wellness, as well as the Hair Lounge. I guess it would be the Sunday before last. It's always refreshing to see our community step up when the food bank has requests. And again, they are low in terms of resources at this point, and could still use more support. And I think, again, one of the greatest things to see is you open up that Facebook page and they're sharing that, a boy or girl or a group of kids have decided to ask their friends for, some food or some donations towards their birthday presents, and then donate that to the food bank. And I think we have multiple fundraisers where at least the food bank has been a portion of that fundraising process. So I'm proud to see that in our community.
Yeah, just leading into me as well. I can't tell you how many golf tourneys, runs, walks, dinners, events that people are having for other people that they can help, and it's across the board. It's I've never seen anything like it. The businesses and the individuals that step up to volunteer their time, donate cash in this kind of economy. When business is tough and you're hearing from the same business, it's never been tougher, and then you see a silent auction item that they've donated on a table, raising money for another individual. We truly live in the most generous community, and the people and the businesses that are here are just the very, very best, and I'm exactly of the same vein as you. I've never been prouder of the people who live here, they play here, they work here, and the best part is we see our staff, they drive by in a truck, they're emptying garbage cans, they're prepping for the run, they're cordoning off streets, they're making sure everybody's safe. And again, that's a credit to our team because they're there on their weekends, and I know they get paid to be there, but some of them just really appreciate all their efforts because they do a lot behind the scenes to make these events possible. So I want to sincerely thank our staff as well. Councillor Burley, please.
Just a comment from our last council meeting with our decision to allow the Boys and Girls Club to have the fire hall. The excitement and gratitude from the community and the Boys and Girls Club has been amazing, and it will be the best ever event this year.
I heard they're going to be doing some chopping of you. I don't know what that means. Councillor Coulson, please.
I can't believe it got to the end, and I am the only one that's going to mention Airdrie Fest. which is happening this weekend.
That's why we left you best for last.
Thanks, guys. That's great. So yeah, Airdrie Fest happening this weekend. So it'd be great to see everybody come out and get to know the different businesses and community groups that will be there. I'm sure we're going to have a lot of city informational booths set up as well.
Sorry, just what time does it start? What time does it end? Is it noon?
It starts at 11 a.m.
11. I thought it was noon.
Nope, starts at 11.
11 to 5.
11 till 4.
4. See? We didn't know.
Well, I bet you're embarrassed you asked.
No, not really. I was on the radio this morning talking about it. I just can't remember.
I heard you, which is why I remembered. And then September 17th is actually the citywide food drive for the Airdrie Food Bank. So keep an eye on your doors because they're going to put a bag on every single door in this city. And last year, I think they filled a semi-trailer full of food. It was amazing. They had to bring in all sorts of volunteers to sort the food, but it lasted them quite a long time. So that was amazing.
Awesome.
So, yep.
Thank you for sharing. Follow up, Paul. Sorry?
One more thing.
Yep.
Around whatever happens with the animal control bylaw, we need signage at our dog parks. People need to know what the rules are, that you cannot drop your dog and leave it, that you should pick up after your dog, that all of those new things. So I just forgot to mention that needs to be in conjunction with the bylaw.
Do you want to make a motion so that that's formalized?
I'll wait, but I just wanted to put the bug in everybody's ear that we need signage.
Yeah, well, that'd be part of
but
that's part of the educational piece, right? But maybe you need to be specific because I didn't see that as part of what they were offering I don't know, can anybody elaborate on that? Yeah, Linda, please. We have our communications expert here.
Like, we need permanent signage that says, close the gates, pick up after your dog, do not leave your dog unattended and go get a coffee and come back.
I've never seen that. Really?
All the time.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's sad.
Through the chair, we will include that piece in the comprehensive communication and education plan that's going to go out, because this is a big change for our community, and that's why we want to work right alongside with bylaw to make sure.
People complain about it often, but I just assumed it was because we're going to have a lot more rules, no more than 3 dogs or 4 dogs per person, whatever that ends up looking like. Yeah.
If I could just add, I was at the City of Calgary when they brought their bylaw in, and I think anecdotally that a big part of their success was due to the proactive nature of the communications that they did around those bylaws. So to get the bylaw officers out in the community, in the dog parks, talking about the pieces that are new and educating people, and certainly we'll be recommending that as part of our plan.
Excellent, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else, Councillor Wilson? Nope. Okay. Paul, Council follow-up.
Thank you, Worship. Sound like a broken record each time, but we are on track. There's a number of items coming up, and I think we knocked 2 off tonight. If there's any questions, I'll attempt to answer them.
Any questions for Paul? There being none, I would like to welcome Sharon back for an extended leave of absence. She was on holidays again for 12 or 14 weeks. Other than that, have a great evening, and we are adjourned.
Oh, we need to excuse. Oh, we don't have to. Oh.
Councillor Chapman knows he's excused. He's watching right now.
He's watching.
Yeah.
So if we could please
just
excuse Councillor Chapman.
Yes, we better do that. All those in favor? Thank you for reminding us. Oh, we got one opposed. No, we thought we had one opposed. We're unanimous on Councillor Chapman. He's laughing at somewhere in Camel River. All those in favor is unanimous. Thank you very much, and the meeting is adjourned.